LeBron doll will be available for $75 in stores and online.
You can get it right across the street from Staples Center.
Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It is hour one. This is what you missed if you don't listen to all 4 hours. We're about to sign off yesterday. He's doing his back page, and Jim mispronounces the word across. It's not like some huge word. It's not pterodactyl.
No, I did not mispronounce the word across. I mispronounced the word crossbody.
I'm sorry. You're right. You mispronounced the word crossbody.
If you're going to make fun of me,
you're right.
Let's get it
you're
right, John.
It was just the word cross, really.
It was just the word cross.
Like, where would cross rank in terms of like easy words to hard words to read? I would say it's in that, like, on a 1 to 10, it's in the 1 or 2. It might not be the or the, like or it.
It's probably, one of the first words you might learn as a child, like cross the street, or
like it's not in a spelling bee.
Or
round 1 of the second grade spelling bee, it's harder than that. Like round 1 does not include the word cross because it's just too easy. But whatever. I mean, you learn something new every day. I mean, Jim literally is learning something during his own back pages every single day.
I'm like, wow, this is how you read.
Crossbody.
These are words.
Unbelievable.
It makes sense.
We have a really good show lined up, especially for a Padres off day. We're going to catch up with John Nolan, Fort Wayne Tin Caps down on the farm. Their season is underway. He'll join us at 2:30. He's a broadcaster for the Padres Single A team. We'll talk Masters at 3 with Ryan Harrington, managing editor of Golf Digest. John Wilner. Let's just get to that. John Wilner Hotline, who has written so much on the Pac-12 and its future expansion and the upcoming media deal, broke the news about SC and UCLA back in the day to the Big Ten. Just a great college sports resource. He will join us again on the show at 3:30. Then Darnay Tribb, against his own will, because we forced him to come on the show, essentially, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We also have Sesame Place tickets to give away. I was thinking on this off day, you sent me something. It wasn't even last night. It was 2 nights ago. We did a wrap-up show. And after the show, I'm on Instagram, and I see a direct message. I'm like, who slid in here? It's Jim Russell.
Yeah.
It was 2 seconds after the show, right?
It's me or a bot.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't exactly expecting, like, something of substance.
No, nothing.
So I see what he sends me an Instagram post, Brent, and I watch it. I'm like brushing my teeth. I'm like, it's Mike Schilt. And not only is it Mike Schilt, it's for, I don't even know where this was.
This is what you get on a Padres off day, everybody.
No, because it speaks to like who Mike Schilt is.
Right. We're going to tie this in. Yeah, don't worry. We're tying this in.
So it was for Identity Sports. And if you go to Identity Sports, it is a nonprofit organization that has like a religious aspect to it. Okay. And he was on like a panel. And when I hear Mike Schilt on this panel, it reminds me of Mike Schilt at the podium with the Padres. I just want to share this with our listeners. This is what Jim sent to me 2 nights ago on Instagram. And it's like Mike Schilt in his essence. Listen.
First of all, you're the only one with yourself all the time. So why would you talk to yourself negatively? I don't, and I had to learn that. I get it. But we're all with ourselves all the time. So if you can't be good to yourselves, who are you going to be good to? Start there. And then one thing that has helped players, I believe it's helped me, is at the end of the day, a little bit of reflection. You get a chance to reflect on your day. You did something well today. You might have opened a door for somebody. You might have supported a teammate, patted him on the back. You may have gone 0 for 4, but you ran every ball out hard. You backed up a base and saved a run. You did something that was really, really positive. Feel good about that too. All right. But our self-talk allows us to create our own self-esteem and our own real confidence. And so at the end of the day, what did I do well? And then tomorrow, what would I like to be better at? And let it go. Yeah, I went 0 for 4. Why? Because I chased 3 balls out of the zone. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to get off a curveball machine and I'm going to track a little bit. It really is that practical easy. What did I do well? Love on yourself. Be good to yourself. What would I like to be better at tomorrow? I'm not going to beat myself up. And then tomorrow, wake up, enjoy it, be excited about it, pray about it, and then go love on somebody and work on your craft.
Is that not Mike Schilt? I mean, it is Mike Schilt.
Well, it is Mike Schilt.
But does that not remind you of everything you've heard from Mike Schilt about his team over the last 1+ seasons? And that was just him talking in like generalities, not specifics, but that was like Mike Schilt's essence. And when I hear that, I'm like, actually, again, when he came here at the end of 2023, the whole thing was the clubhouse is a mess. And now here we are in 2025, and I just feel like he was the right guy to like bring the thing together, point it in the right direction. And I hear it when I hear something like that you sent me on Instagram in the middle of the night 2 nights ago.
It rings true. As it is right now, the Padres have the best record in baseball still. Early. But 10-3 is 10-3.
Yep.
And last year, 93 wins. Mike Shildt, if you just look at his career as a manager, winning season after winning season after winning season after winning season. We know the record in the second half. It's called Shildt season for a reason. And he proved it last year in the second half. They took off like a rocket ship. So, yeah, is Mike Shildt a little corny? Of course. Does he come off as a guy that, is just the most positive person on the planet? He doesn't come off that way. He is that way.
Right.
Could you ask him a question like, hey, Mike, how you doing? And could it turn into a 5-minute answer about him naming off every single player on the roster, telling you how great they are? Yeah, it will. End of the day, bottom line, Mike Shildt's a really good manager. Everything else to the side, he's a really good manager. And stuff like that, while it might come off a little cringe to some people, myself included, it works. And, we're in the business of whatever works, do it. And that is what Mike Shildt does. And he believes it. And he believes everything he says. And what he's doing, it works. And so, yeah, I think, you listen to stuff like that and it just, you can see a little more insight on Mike Shildt, because while he has been here for a year, we still are learning new things about Mike Shildt every day. And I think knowing more about Mike Shildt, because he probably will be around here for a good amount of time if they keep winning, obviously, the better. And so, yeah, dude might say some weird, corny stuff at times, and he might, snap back at Kevin or Dennis at a press conference for asking about the usage of Wandy Peralta. But hey, man, if he's going to keep winning like this, do whatever you want, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, for a show like this, he's been nothing but pure gold, because I've always been enamored by hearing Mike Shildt speak for whatever reason. To me, it does work for whatever reason. Was I skeptical in the first half of last year? I was. They had some moments where you're like, is this more 23 than it is 22? When I was watching the first half of 24, the season,
a lot of similarities.
There were a lot of
also differences.
They would turn, they'd get going and then they'd lose 5 straight, and they'd get going and they would lose 5 straight. And then you looked up after the All-Star break. I mean, you're talking late July, and they were blown out one day right after the All-Star break. They were 50-50. I remember thinking right then, I'm like, is this just more of the same? Like, okay, they've replaced the manager's chair, but is this just more of the same? And no, I was wrong. I mean, they historically got going, truthfully, to finish the season 43-19 to finish their year, and they haven't skipped a beat here to start 2025. Now, do they have to do it in a postseason? Yes. Were we all let down by the end result last year in 2024? I think 9 out of 10 Padres fans were let down by the way it ended, maybe more than that. But I guess the point is, give Mike Shildt his due. Give him his credit. And I agree with you. I think he's going to be here a long time. I don't know what that means in today's baseball with managing. 4 or 5 years is probably a long time. I hope he's here 4 or 5 years. And that to me is stability and a pretty long stint in the major leagues.
He already signed 1 contract extension.
Keep signing them.
Well, that would mean that there would be winning a lot. So
he's under control through when?
2027, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah,
it's 1 year more than Preller.
Right, because it didn't match up, and we were wondering, wait, why?
Yeah, what's that about?
Match up, but yeah, start of the season, off day now. You kind of evaluate the first 13 games, and a lot of things still ring true from last year's team. Mike Shildt, good manager. This team, very gritty, grit squad, right? The other day when we talked to Kevin, and in his newsletter, 5-0 in 1-run games, right? A couple comeback victories already this year. Xander's doing well. Manny's doing well. The only thing right now that is the concern is the injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play? But
right.
At the same time, they are still a really good baseball team. They can overcome these, I think, because the injuries aren't major. I don't view them as long-lasting injuries. And so they just get through this little mini stretch here and don't fall on their face. I think everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm expecting when they post a lineup tomorrow that either Fernando Tatis Jr. or Jake Cronenworth is in the lineup. And maybe that's wishful or hopeful. I go back to what Mike Schultz said yesterday, where they were optimistic. That's my expectation. I don't think tomorrow the other shoe drops and Jake Cronenworth and Fernando Tatis Jr. are both put on the IL, and then they join Jackson Merrill. I mean, that's where you would actually get concerned, even at 10-3 overall. If you had that number of players and starting position players on the IL, maybe it's wishful, maybe it's hopeful, maybe I'm naive. I'm just optimistic that it's Friday. They've had a day or two. Jake Cronenworth's out there, or Fernando Tatis Jr.'s out there, or both of them are out there. And I hope I'm right, because nobody wants to see a world where Fernando Tatis Jr. is back on an IL, because he has spent a lot of his career. We went through this yesterday on the IL. I forget what I looked it up last night. We did it off air. 40% of games he's been eligible to appear in since he debuted in 2019, he's missed. Now, that includes a suspension.
But still,
but he was hurt that year too.
He was. He would have been out for
almost the entire year.
80% of that season.
Didn't they go back in on the wrist?
Well, he's had his rehab assignment, and like a week into his rehab assignment, he got popped for PEDs.
But didn't the rehab assignment, correct me if I'm wrong, start late because it was?
Oh yeah, it started late.
But it started late because something was going on with that wrist that was longer than they expected.
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't healing right.
That's
because
right.
He didn't tell them about the wrist, and it didn't heal properly.
We had surgery on it though after, right? In February.
And the shoulder.
Right. Well, I guess the point is, if you took every game the Padres have played since 2019, Tatis has missed over 40% of them. So he can't afford to go on the IL. He just can't. So hopefully he doesn't. That's the one thing for me. I mean, I'm steadfast on it. It's not his fault. Like, you get hurt. If he gets hit by a fastball on the wrist and breaks his wrist, that's not his fault.
Yeah,
he's just the one guy that cannot go on the IL. I don't care who's at fault.
Yeah, if I walk down a flight of stairs and I step on a pebble there and I
die
and twist my ankle, is it my fault?
No, but ultimately, I'll give you an example real quick. If you miss one out of every 4 shows. Because, I have the sniffles, and I have a cold, and, I have COVID, and, Aaron's dog is sick. At some point, you're just not reliable.
That's true.
It's like, and again, like if it's the John and Jim show, you can't miss one of every 3 shows. And you don't. I do sometimes during seasons. But that's just the point. Like, you got to be available. Like, your name is on the headline. Now, and I'm not talking John and Jim. I'm talking Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, you're a headline act for the San Diego Padres, so you have to stay on the field. All right, injury updates, Tatis and Cronenworth and Merrill, plus at 2:30, friend of the show, John Nolan, voice of the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. Their season is underway. Padres single-A affiliate. We'll get an update on the farm with John Nolan at 2:30. We're just getting started, John and Jim.
San Diego
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. John Nolan, voice of the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. How's Leo DeVries started his season in A-ball? We'll catch up with John Nolan in 10 minutes. Also, the all-new iHeartRadio app. Download it, and then put San Diego Sports 760 in your presets. Make us preset number 1. You can listen live every day to John and Jim. Put John and Jim in your presets. You can listen back to any hour or interview of the show. So the Padres today are off. They'll open a series tomorrow with the Rockies at home. And this will be a 3-game series, 6-game homestand. The Cubs are coming here as well. So 6 games in 6 days, off today, off next Thursday, dealing with the Jackson Merrill injury, but doing so with the best record in baseball. So 10-3 to start. Like you said earlier, very early without Jackson Merrill. Hopefully he's back. When this homestand ends, Merrill is eligible to come off the IL. So you'll be without him for the Rockies and the Cubs, but then hopefully you see him next weekend in Houston.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, it's not that long at this point.
Now, again, I might be going to some games this homestand.
Oh,
so
must be nice.
Not being able to see Jackson Merrill, that's going to bum me out. But in the long run, look, get healthy, bro. And let's have this thing not turn into a multi-week injury. Be back, like you said, either at the end of the Cubs series or the start of the Astros series on the road next Friday. And I'm all good with that.
Yeah, I don't think he's eligible to come off during the Cubs series. Someone would have to do the math for me. I don't believe he is. I think it would be next weekend based on 10 days.
Okay, so you're right.
I think it's to start the series in Houston. So again, he's getting 10 or 11 days. There's an off day in there. The 10-day IL becomes 11 days. I guess they have proven, here's the other thing in this, if we want to talk about short sample sizes, they proved on, I guess, during this Sacramento series, they can win without Jackson Merrill, because they did it twice. And then they proved yesterday, not only can they win without Jackson Merrill, and this wasn't a thing of beauty, they won 2-1, but they can win without Cronenworth, Tatis, and Merrill in one game. Again, you'd never want to go about it for a week or 2 or longer without those 3 players, but for one day, they managed to win. Good sign.
Where they scored 2 runs. They were 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position.
But they've been that team. They were they 2 for 14 yesterday? I thought they were like 1 for 8 or 2 for 12. I don't think they were 2 for 14.
Let me double
were
check.
They? That's bad.
Let me double check on that.
Yeah, look on that.
They had 12 hits, John.
Right. Maybe they were 2 for 14. I think you're right.
2 for 14.
How about this? Last 8 games, that includes Tatis and Merrill?
Yeah, give me that. 164.
But what's the record those 8 games? 6-2?
6-2.
No, 5-3 because they went 3-3 on the trip.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. They were 9 for 56 with runners in scoring position on the road trip. 9 for 56.
Right. But
3-3 split.
We said this the other day. They were awful with men in scoring position in 2023, and they were a bad team. I mean, historically bad in terms of men in scoring position, right?
That team made me want to literally
they never came through in the clutch.
Fight somebody.
Yeah, they never came through the clutch. Opportunities never all year.
So annoying.
Until September, it didn't matter. 2024 was a complete rebound. Like a complete 180. It was amazing. And sometimes that does carry over, sometimes it doesn't. Again, they did the 180. This year, they have not hit well with men in scoring position, yet they're still 10-3. I'm encouraged by that, truthfully, because they've gotten off to the good start, but they haven't yet hit. I feel like they'll hit with men in scoring position.
Wouldn't you much rather still be winning games despite the fact that you haven't hit with runners in scoring position?
Exactly.
Because eventually, even the 2023 team had stretches where they were really good with runners in scoring position. It's just they were historically awful with runners in scoring position. Oh, and then by the way, they weren't even winning those games. So it was like a double whammy.
Right.
This team is at least winning games despite the fact they went, 9 for 56, 9 for 58?
Right.
On the road trip with runners in scoring position.
That's a good point.
You would take 3-3 every 6-game road trip ever.
Yeah.
If you went 9 for 56 with runners in scoring position. And your team, your starting pitcher's ERA was in the 15. It was awful.
Right, exactly. I had someone today at the gym say that.
Whoa.
Orange Theory.
How much Orange Theory did you do today?
The whole show. I mean, the whole thing. Look at me.
Why are you still
cut? Still what?
I don't know.
Skinny.
Yeah.
Well, there's someone there that knows what we do and is a viewer, or I don't even know, but a fan. Well, I don't know if it's YouTube, I don't know if it's radio, I don't know if it's both. But he's like, "How about that lineup yesterday?" I'm like, "Well, yes, but when you don't have Jackson Merrill, Fernando Tatis Jr., and you don't have Jay Cronenworth, it's going to look like a 4A lineup." Now, no 4A team has Manny Machado on it or Luis Arraez.
No.
But Yeah, I get the
Or
point.
Xander Bogaerts.
I looked at 4 through 9 or 5 through 9, and yeah, but again, I think most teams without 3 of their starting position players are essentially fielding a quote unquote quad A for a team.
Yeah, if you roll that lineup out there for the next 2 weeks, then we have problems.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to win at a crazy high clip.
But you roll that lineup out there
for a day.
For a day, fine.
Right.
And they got the win, so everything's good. If they lost yesterday 9-0, and you're just like, oh, that sucked. You just lost to potentially one of the worst teams in baseball, and you lost a series, and you come home, and it's just, the injuries are stacking up, and, you get early panic to start your, the season. It's not something that I would think should be DEFCON 1. This is like the worst thing ever, but you would get early panic from fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, again, Friday night, Colorado Rockies. Will Fernando Tatis Jr. be back in the lineup? Will Jake Cronenworth be back in the lineup? I think one or both will be back in the lineup. That's my guess. One or both back in the lineup tomorrow night. That's your guess. You think at least one, right?
I think at least one, and I have a surprise for you as far as who I think it's going to be.
Fernando?
I think it's going to be Fernando.
You think Jake needs some time after getting hit in the ribs on Sunday?
Yeah, I think hearing Mike Schilt yesterday mention inflammation and swelling and just didn't feel right for Jake, and that they were talking about potentially having Fernando Tatis Jr. be ready in a pinch hit situation.
That's right.
If a manager says a guy could be available in a pinch hit spot, now they didn't use him and they weren't even close to using him, but still, you say that, I think you're close to returning, and I think he's going to return on Friday night. Jake, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes another day or two here, because, dude, I mean, that hit him flush in like the kidney rib area. Like,
yeah.
That's brutal.
And it was Schilt yesterday that said, direct quote, "We're optimistic for Friday." Mike Schilt, when asked about the status of both Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jake Cronenworth. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. We're going to catch up with John Nolan, voice of the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres in the Midwest League, where Leo DeVries has started his season. Their season is underway. John Nolan joins us next. We'll talk Masters at 3. We'll get into the Pac-12 with John Wilner at 3:30, and Darnay Tripp joins us at 5. It's John and Jim.
Hey, everyone in San Diego, this is
All right, this update is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Padres, they have an off day today. They'll start a 3-game series tomorrow night at Petco Park against the Rockies. Nick Pivetta slated to start tomorrow night for the Padres. And round 1 of the Masters is underway. Justin Rose leading the tournament at 7 under par. Scotty Scheffler is at 4 under par. Rory McIlroy is at 3 under par. And San Diego State senior Justin Hastings is currently at +1 on the day. You're going to want to sit down for this, John. The jumbo breakfast platter from Jack in the Box. No, seriously, it's so much food. Munch. There's French toast sticks, grilled sausage patties, hash browns, and scrambled eggs, all for just $3.99. Get all this and so much more at Jack in the Box.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Padres off day, not for their minor league affiliates. Fort Wayne season underway in Single A. They'll play later on today in Dayton. Good start to the year for the Tin Caps at 3-2 overall. We've got the voice of the Tin Caps back with us right now on John and Jim. John Nolan back with us here in San Diego. John, first of all, appreciate you. Hope all is well.
Hey, John. Hey, Jim. Yeah, it's awesome to be back on with you guys. And, excited to have another season underway, including on the minor league side.
All right, so everyone wants to know about Leo DeVries, right? He's one of the top prospects, not just in the Padres organization, but in baseball. I know it's only been a handful of games, but what have we seen so far from DeVries in his first week of 2025?
Yeah, so Fort Wayne season started on Friday night. Sure enough, he was the leadoff batter playing shortstop, and so he led off the Tin Cap season with a base hit. Very first pitch that he was on base, he stole second. He later came around, scored a run, had a couple of hits in that high A level debut, hit safely each of his first 3 games. Last night, first time this season that he was held off the bases. Now, of course, one note here with the Midwest League is that I think today is the first time that we have seen 60 degrees and the sun through this first week of the season. So definitely the annual disclaimer to fans looking at stats of DeVries and others here with the Tin Caps at the high A stage. You got to take the offensive numbers, maybe even some of the pitching numbers with a grain of salt, just given the conditions. First several games, certainly not ideal between cold, and we're talking for context here, actual temperatures pretty much have been in the 40s through the first 4 or 5 games that DeVries has been in. And then when you add in the wind, it felt like it's in the 30s. There have been a couple of games with rain as well. So, all that said, I think with DeVries, he's been pretty smooth at shortstop. Haven't seen any extra base hits yet, but part of that, again, is just that did the elements, because there was a ball that he drove last night that you thought maybe carries has a chance of getting out, but winds up being caught on the warning track with the wind blowing in.
Yeah, I was going to ask about his defense, because all we do is talk about, his offense and what he could project to be. But defensively, what have you seen from him? And making the jump to the major leagues, it seems like they're going to keep him at shortstop. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and so I would certainly start off by saying here in Fort Wayne, it's been a small sample size. Put that in caps, bold, italics, etc. Only 4 games, and so a couple nights ago he did commit a throwing error, throw that was off target to first base. So with that, there was no panic. There was no jumping to find a different position for him. I think he cleared waivers, so he's still here. That said, obviously, if you've been following the Padres, you know that just about everyone on the roster at the big league level was a shortstop at one point or another. And so Jackson Merrill was a shortstop in Fort Wayne 2 years ago. Fernando Tatis, of course, at one point was a shortstop in Fort Wayne. So I'm not here to project where Leo may fit into the big league lineup. And I don't even have a timeline for you, but in due time, where he'll be, I don't know. But right now he is the primary shortstop here with Fort Wayne.
John Nolan, voice of the Tin Caps, with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. I believe you have one of the top pitching prospects in the organization down on the farm with you in Fort Wayne, and Isaiah Lowe, right? So right-handed pitcher. I think he's made 1 outing so far this year in Single A. What do Padres fans need to know about? He's a right-handed starter, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So Isaiah Lowe, 21 years old, drafted by the Padres a couple years ago. And And he was a guy who, coming out of high school in North Carolina, was committed to Wake Forest. So for anyone who's paid attention to college baseball in recent years, you know that Wake Forest has been not just one of the top programs nationally, but specifically, they actually are really known for their pitching. And they are one of the, just like the Padres at this point now have the quote unquote pitching lab at Point Loma Nazarene, right? Wake Forest has a pitching lab that I think big league coaching staffs go to study from. So Isaiah was on track to go to Wake Forest, wound up though signing with the Padres when he was drafted. And he's a case of a guy who was drafted in the 11th round, but he was given a signing bonus that would have been more like a top 5 round pick. That's where MLB draft gets kind of convoluted at times. So in any case, pretty good pedigree for Isaiah, who last year had a lot of success at the single A level with Lake Elsinore. Actually got called up, promoted to Fort Wayne late last season, and now hitting the ground running here. He started the second game of the season for them, just like we see it in the big league level, even once the regular season game starters are still ramping up. So it was just 4 innings in the season debut for Isaiah, but only 1 run allowed. Pretty solid fastball, mid-90s, slider, changeup. This is a good season for Isaiah. I think just to stay healthy all the way through would be a guy who I think, could be in line to get up to Double-A San Antonio if he shows out in the first half or so in Fort Wayne.
Obviously, DeVries, and as you mentioned, Isaiah Lowe, those are some prospects that Padres fans know about. But are there other prospects at Fort Wayne right now that Padres fans might not know about that they should keep an eye on?
And I think as fans right now are looking at like who's in line to get called up from Double-A or Triple-A, some of the first names you think of are relievers and guys who we actually had in Fort Wayne last year and then really now have risen pretty quickly. And Francis Pena, who's with El Paso, Bradley Rodriguez, who's with Double-A San Antonio, but we all saw really impressed during big league spring training. So along that track, Tyson Neighbors, he was drafted by the Padres last year out of Kansas State, where he was one of the top relievers in the country at the collegiate level over the last couple of years. So he was the 4th round pick last year. And he early on here has been essentially the closer for the Tin Caps, has finished a couple of their wins early on. Mid-90s fastball that can get up into the high 90s, curveball and a slider, pitched in some big stakes games in college at Kansas State, also pitched for the USA Baseball Collegiate National Team, just to get a sense of how he's been perceived from a greater perspective. And so I think Tyson Neighbors is a guy who, frankly, I'm not anticipating is going to be here in Fort Wayne for too long if he continues to look like he has. He was the closer for Lake Elsinore late last season when they made it to the Cal League Championship Series. So I think Tyson Neighbors is a guy who might be the quickest candidate to get up to Double-A San Antonio this year. And then from there, who knows?
Again, John Nolan with his voice of the Tin Caps. I know, John, because you follow the system because of your job, there's a lot of former Tin Caps that are obviously in the major leagues or right now at other levels in the minor leagues, including Ethan Salas, who starts the year in Double-A. What do you make of, I guess, where he is right now in his trajectory and rise? You've seen him firsthand in Fort Wayne, still a very young player, obviously, that the Padres remain very high on. What are your hopes and expectations for Salas in 2025 in the system?
Yeah, and a requisite reminder that we started talking about Leo DeVries here in Fort Wayne, youngest player at the high A level at 18 years old. And now Ethan, youngest player at the Double-A level, and not just talking specifically about on these Padres minor league rosters,
right,
but just with any club at these levels. And no surprise, I mean, this is kind of just standard business with the way that the Padres do aggressively promote their top tier guys. So with Ethan, the first thing that comes to mind, though, from having the experience of being around him for more than a season in Fort Wayne, I really respect him as just a person, and I think he has a really good head on his shoulders. Sure, loyal fans have heard the story about how he comes from a baseball family where he's got an older brother who's a prospect with the Twins. He's got a younger brother who's a upper echelon prospect now with the Marlins, and his dad played in the minors, grandfather, uncle. I mean, he just grew up in the game. His dad actually built a baseball field for him in Florida. He's originally from Venezuela, but spent part of his years growing up in Central Florida. And so literally grew up on a baseball field. And I think also with Ethan, while we expect the bat to tick up, because, he would tell you himself last year was disappointing as far as the offensive numbers go. So he was trending upwards in the later part of the season. He was actually had some of the best numbers at this level for August and into September, and showed some good stuff in the Arizona Fall League against top prospects. But with Ethan, I think it's just not something that's like easily available for fans to see as far as stats go, or even like video. But his calling card is his defense and his job working with pitching staff, because he's mature beyond his years. So yes, if the plan is for him to be an all-star caliber catcher, you need more out of the bat too. But I trust that'll come in time for him, because again, 18 years old, literally still physically growing. I think I noticed last year he was just taller from by the end of the season than when he had started in Fort Wayne. But I trust the person there in terms of just his makeup, as scouts like to say, the way that he carries himself. So I would not be concerned by any of the stats here at this point, because he's literally first to the field and literally the last guy to leave. Part of that might be because he was trying to wait out the autograph seekers, but
That's funny.
True. Yeah. Like seriously. Because as a 17-year-old last year, you had dozens of people lined up outside of the gates. We're seeing it now with DeVries, where people are getting to the ballpark like 8 hours before game time to try to catch him on the way in to get an autograph. Something for fans to kind of just remember too. Like, these are guys who could be in high school, depending on classification, if they went to school here in the States, and they're dealing with stuff that none of us can even imagine. But I think their poise really is impressive.
John, we always appreciate it, man. Congrats on the start of another year. I know you've got a game to call tonight in Dayton with the Tin Cap season now underway. Week number 1 in single A baseball for Fort Wayne, the Padres single A affiliate. So, John, we appreciate your time, man. We'll do it again at some point, hopefully within the next month or so. So thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, no, appreciate the coverage that you guys provide from the top all the way down to the lower levels of the minors. And for that matter, as I've said to you before, I don't know if I should thank you or blame you for some of my insomnia, but in Eastern time zone, I love me a wrap-up show. So thanks to you guys. Congrats on everything you have going. And look forward to talking soon.
Appreciate it. We do, John. All right. Yeah. Again, 12:30 Eastern for a wrap-up show. Come on, man. You work in the minors. You don't have to be in at 9 a.m.
Hey, John.
Well,
I just hope you didn't watch our latest wrap-up show. If you did, we're sorry.
Why? What do we say? I don't even remember.
Of course you don't.
I don't even remember. John, thank you.
I think I was dozing off, but I'll just accept your apology.
Okay. It didn't have anything to do with John, right? Or the Tin Caps.
No, I'm sorry because we wasted his time.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, John. Have a good call tonight. All right, on the other side, it is now possible that the Mavericks made a mistake. It's something we should at least consider. Plus, a really cool master's note for Aztec fans, as Ryan Harrington, managing editor for Golf Digest, will join us at 3 p.m. It's John and Jim. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. There is a golf tournament called the Masters that is underway. New live event. Love it. So the Masters look spectacular on television.
Don't you dare say that.
Get it. You've gone through some of the leaderboard stuff. Here's the cool note, and Ryan Harrington, Golf Digest, will join us coming up at 3 p.m. Managing editor, by the way, of Golf Digest. He's been with us before. Here's the really cool note. There's only 95 in the field for the Masters. Unlike a typical tournament that's in the 140s, the Masters field is smaller. You know this, but for everyone, 95. That's a small field, 5 of which are amateurs. So 90 professionals, 5 amateurs. Of the 95 in the field, 3 of them have San Diego State degrees or ties. You have Xander Schauffele, who's a San Diego State grad. You have J.J. Spawn, who's a San Diego State grad. And you have Hastings. What's his first name?
Justin.
Justin Hastings, who you've mentioned in your updates, who is a senior right now at San Diego State. He is an amateur. He'll have a chance to go as low amateur. We'll see if it transpires this weekend or not. He's +4 in the event through 1 round, but 3 of the 95 are Aztecs. I think that's really cool. I don't know what the rest looks like. I'm sure there's some schools with 2, 3, 4 golfers from their school, but I bet that's one of the most recognized schools in the field with 3 players out of 95.
Well, I think having, a San Diego State active player,
that's crazy,
as an amateur, and there's only, how many you say, 5 amateurs in the field, I think?
Yeah, there were 7, 6. But a couple scratched. There's only 5 that are participating this weekend.
Okay, 5. So right now, the low amateur, like you said, +1, Hiroshi Tai. And then you got Justin at +4, along with Luis Ballester. He's also +4. And then Evan Beck's +5. And then Noah Kent is +7. So those are your amateurs right now.
What happens if you're so low amateur? First of all, is in the cabin at the end,
correct?
With like Jim Nance. But is there, in addition to being regarded as the low amateur at the Masters, which is an incredible accomplishment, does that come with anything else, like inclusion in future events or tournaments?
I want to say yes.
Okay,
I do.
It would make sense. Obviously, there's no financial benefit if you're an amateur in the event, correct?
No, but
no matter where you finish.
But the cool part is, like you said, you're in Butler Cabin.
Which is
at the end of the tournament, say
10 million people watching.
Rory wins it.
You're next to him.
He's sitting down with Jim Nance and
it's kind of crazy.
And Rory's wearing the green jacket. If Justin Hastings came in as the low amateur in the field, he'd be sitting next to Rory getting interviewed. I mean, it's just like the coolest accomplishment that you could have as an amateur. It probably is one of the biggest highlights if you're an amateur of your career, is if you are the low amateur at the Masters.
How about this note? San Diego State's all-time scoring record per round is Xander Schauffele. His average score per round at San Diego State was under 72. It was like a 71.5. Hastings has a lower average score per round in his career at San Diego State than Xander Schauffele. So he's got a bright future as well. But yeah, 3 Aztecs in the field. Right now, the leader is
Justin Rose at 7 under par. Rory is still out there. He is on 14.
Okay.
He's 4 under. Scotty Scheffler is at 4 under. Came in today, 68. See, where's Xander?
He's +2.
+2. Okay.
And he's been dealing with injuries, right? Over the offseason, he was dealing with something.
I'm trying to look to see if Phil's at +3.
Obviously another golfer with San Diego ties.
And John Rahm's +3. Yeah, I'm trying to look for any more names here. Dustin Johnson's at +2. I'm trying to find where Koepka is, if he's on the.
It's good radio. Anyway, just go to ESPN and Google like Masters. Ryan Harrington, managing editor, Golf Digest, will join us in about 8 minutes. So last night, Luka drops 45 in
+1
a win.
for Koepka. Sorry.
Luka drops 45 points in a win, 31 of which came in the first half. His return to Dallas, we joked maybe the Mavericks didn't win that trade. The Lakers get an important win late in their season. The whole reunion that night is now past us. He's crying. We talked about it yesterday before being introduced yesterday in Dallas. Just kind of a bizarre scene, especially the crowd with all the Luka fans that were essentially rooting for Luka over their own team in the Dallas Mavericks. But the Lakers pick up a big win, and the Lakers are, in decent position right now, Jim, to make a case to be one of the better teams in the West, or at least a threat coming out of the West here in 2025.
Did you see what the crowd was chanting during that game?
Well, the fire Nico Harrison.
So Nico was in the tunnel, and somebody in the crowd was taking a video of Nico Harrison as the crowd is chanting "Fire Nico, fire Nico."
Yeah.
And then at the same time, someone else was taking a video of Mark Cuban, who was front row during the "Fire Nico" chants.
Okay.
And he started shaking his head, and you could tell, like, oh, this is awful. Now, Mark Cuban isn't the majority owner of the Mavericks anymore, but still, he was there when they drafted Luka.
Yeah.
He said, as long as I'm the owner of this team, we'll never trade Luka. He's going to be a Maverick as long as I'm the owner. And then right as he, sells majority of his shares in the team, what happens? Luka's gone. I just think it's it's the most avoidable situation ever in sports, yet they still did it.
Well, now, Mark Cuban's role with the Mavericks still exists, but it's no longer obviously what it was. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I want to say, yeah.
I think it's correct. And the reason I ask it is, how was he not a part of the process, even if he's not representing ownership?
He can't override anybody's decision. He can't go to.
No, I agree. But
Nico
he
you can't do this.
Not even override. 100%. I agree with you. He wasn't privy. He wasn't aware.
They made nobody aware. It was Nico Harrison and
Rob Pelinka.
And then Jeannie Buss, and then the new Mavs ownership group.
The Mavericks didn't speak with another team in the NBA about Luka.
They didn't speak with their head coach Jason Kidd. They didn't speak.
Do we buy that? Because it's like, well, Jason Kidd and I are aligned
I buy
in our
that.
thinking.
I buy that.
Okay.
I buy that this thing was done behind closed doors in the dead of night. That this thing had you could probably count on one hand how many people knew about this deal. I know everyone's like, oh, LeBron knew about it. Okay, maybe. But I mean,
I'm not saying it's remember the Chris Paul Hornets thing, Lakers, you can't go there. And then he ends up with the Clippers.
Yeah.
I don't even know. We'd have to go back to that time. I'm just saying, is it not negligent? It's not that you traded Luka. Is it not negligent that you didn't make the other 28 teams in the NBA aware of your interest in moving the player? You only communicated with one team. How on earth does that provide you with the best opportunity to get the max return? How's that possible?
We know it's stupid. It's negligent.
Thank you. That's my point.
It's ridiculous. And Luka is going to be torching the Mavericks the rest of his career,
which will be 16 years.
Yeah. It's awful look. Nico Harrison will be fired in the near future. He won't even be there anymore. And Luka's still going to be dropping 50 on them every single time they play. It's an awful look. I mean, could you imagine I just can't even imagine being like, hey, we're going to trade our best player in his prime.
Yeah, that's good. We're good with it.
Because we think he's fat and he drinks too much beer. What?
The beer thing is so stupid.
I saw someone
remember when Nico Harrison took the beer?
No, it was Michael Finley.
Michael Finley took the beer out of his hand.
And it was the celebration when they beat I think
that's when they won the Western Conference Finals.
They beat the Timberwolves, the Nuggets.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, when they won the Western Conference last year and they're on the way to the finals and they're celebrating, they're in the tunnel. Luka's drinking a beer, and Michael Finley comes over and just stone faced takes the beer out of his hand slowly. And Luka looks over at the camera that's filming him and just gives that blank stare of are you serious right now?
And then he grabbed another beer, by the way. But there was obviously a lot going on between Luka and the Mavericks, but a lot going on is a long way from just saying, oh, let's trade him.
I don't think a lot was going on. I think that they had thoughts on Luka that they weren't expressing to him like they should have. They might have said stuff, but Luka, do you think Luka wanted to leave after watching him last night?
No, but I go back to what who's the dude on ESPN, Windhorst, to what he said last year during the finals, where he called out Luka based on talking with the organization about it. The organization, but remember that report?
I know. The
organization believes this, that, and the other. And unless that changes,
okay.
Right. That's what it was reported at the time. And they honestly believed it because 6 months later he was gone.
But still, even with all that, and you're right, Luka wanted to sign the max deal there. He wanted to stay. That's the craziest part.
It is crazy. Ryan Harrington, managing editor, Golf Digest, will join us on the other side. Masters round 1 underway from Augusta. Ryan Harrington, Golf Digest, next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Padres, they have an off day today. They'll start a 3-game series with the Rockies tomorrow night at Petco Park. Nick Pivetta will be on the mound for the Pods. And taking a look at this Masters leaderboard after the day one Masters tournament, Justin Rose leads at 7 under par. Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler are both at 4 under par. And Justin Harrington, he is at +4. Justin Hastings is at +4. He is the San Diego State senior in the tournament. You're going to want to sit down for this, the jumbo breakfast platter from Jack in the Box. No, seriously, it's so much food. There's French toast sticks, grilled sausage patties, hash browns, and scrambled eggs, all for just $3.99. Get all this and so much more at Jack in the Box.
Get you all set for that drive home.
The LeBron doll is incredibly detailed, featuring the 4-time NBA champ's signature facial hair, a custom Letterman jacket, crossbody bag.
You actually don't know English.
English, do you speak it?
It's not cross. It's cross. Where are you from? What part of the country were you schooled in?
The Ken doll, or I guess LeBron doll, will be available for $75 in stores and online.
You can get it right across the street from Staples Center.
Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim, and we're here until 6 p.m. We've got those Sesame Place tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. But the Masters well underway from Augusta. Great to catch up with Ryan Harrington back with us in San Diego, managing editor for Golf Digest, back with us right now on John and Jim. I was going to ask you about Rory's start, which I think has been very good, but I want to say, I'm just looking online. I don't have it in front of me. I want to say he's run into some trouble maybe here on the 15th, but how important is a fast start for Rory? Because in reading about his major wins, he's always had a really strong start in rounds 1. That would go a long way, obviously, today if he can finish off this round.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, that's been a bugaboo of his here actually at Augusta and at the Masters, is that he hasn't gotten off to good starts at all in this event. And so unfortunately, he just, I think, is about to make a double bogey here. He was 4 under through 14 holes, doing very well, obviously, and getting off to that good start. Now, that said, he could still make a couple birdies here, maybe coming in and still post a good score. But obviously he was having a great day here, exactly the kind of start you want to get off to, and unfortunately found the water on 15, and it changes that quickly.
How surprised are you with Justin Rose's start to this tournament?
Actually, all things considered, not that surprised, only because this is a guy who's this is now the 5th time he's been the first round leader at the Masters, and that's more than anybody in history, more than Jack Nicklaus. He was tied with him before today. So he's had the most rounds where he's led this tournament for any player who hasn't actually won a green jacket too. So there's something about the course that obviously suits his eye that does well, but he's a different player than he was a decade ago. He's 43 now, different stage of his career. But that said, I think it's also a stage where he realizes the window of opportunity here is about to close. And, he was in contention last year at the Open Championship at Royal Troon, came real close there. If he can win one more major championship, it could actually put him in the World Golf Hall of Fame, quite frankly. It's that big a deal. So I think he understands history's on the line. And so I'm not surprised that he got off to a good start here. 4 rounds at this golf course for a 43-year-old to win, that's harder. And so we'll see how it goes over the course of the rest of the week here. But a good start, and a guy who obviously has a lot to play for.
How is the course after the rain the past weekend? It looks like it's playing pretty well.
Yeah, no, all things considered, I mean, obviously a 65 out there, but this golf course has yielded low scores in years past. I think it's in really pretty good shape. We got a lot of rain on Monday. There's supposed to be some overnight rain tonight. So I think the course will be a little softer tomorrow and whatnot. But, they were able to dry things out. They've got the sub-air system here. So the greens are definitely still pretty firm and going to get fast. And, I think all things considered, the course is in really, really good shape. Obviously, one of the storylines coming into this week was all the trees that had been lost in the area or around the golf course when the hurricane came through last fall. And none of them are really anything that was like vital to the actual play for the players, but it definitely gives a different sight line, a different feel out here in certain places. So there's a little bit of a different look, but it's still very much Augusta National and still, a golf course that these guys, dream about playing.
Ryan Harrington, managing editor, Golf Digest, back with us here in San Diego on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. When you look at the top of this leaderboard, does anything stick out? I mean, there's the great story of Freddie Couples. I want to say the lowest round ever for a 65-year-old, or the oldest golfer ever to be under par with a round at the Masters. But what else is sticking out here on day one?
Well, the one that sticks out in my mind is Scotty Scheffler playing a bogey-free 68. He's in second place right now. Probably will be in second place at the end of the day going into tomorrow's round. And this is a defending champion. He's won twice in the last 3 years. There's only been one person who's ever won 3 out of 4. That was Jack Nicklaus. And so that's pretty heady company when you think about it. And, it looked just kind of ho-hum. And if he's making a 68 look home at Augusta National, that means he's playing pretty well. So you've got to think, hey, he set himself up pretty well here to potentially defend that title and whatnot. And so that's the one that sticks out in my mind. Obviously McIlroy was playing real well before, and then you're like, okay, the two favorites, this is fantastic. And it's one double bogey. It's not the end of the tournament for McIlroy, but he's put himself a little bit behind it, whereas Scheffler's put himself in great position for this week.
So Xander Schauffele, +1 on the day, dealing with some injuries. Obviously, had a couple majors in 2024, first majors of his career. How has he looked so far? And has the injuries that he has had, early this season affecting him at all here at Augusta?
Well, I think right now, if you listen to him, he says that he feels fit, that he feels like his body's back to where it's supposed to be. This hip injury, though, was definitely something that delayed the start of his season, delayed what he wanted to do in terms of his preparation. So I don't think he's necessarily where he wants to be in terms of being ready for the major championship season. So he's kind of, I think, winging it a little bit. It wasn't the round I'm sure he wanted today. This is a golf course, again, that he's played pretty well in the past, and having overcome, if you will, his major demons by winning 2 of them last year, I think he is a much better frame of mind in terms of being able to attack these major championships. And so I think he probably wanted to go out there and post a good score and try to remind everybody that he did win twice last year. A few people have forgotten about him because of him being out, but it wasn't necessarily what he wanted right now. The scores are low. He's going to have to go low tomorrow to make sure he makes the cut and contends here. Unfortunately, this might be a week that's kind of lost, and maybe he's got to look to PGA where he gets to defend to be the next major where he can really be a serious contender.
I think it's a pretty cool note, Ryan, and I think you might have written about the amateurs this week at Augusta. Justin Hastings is one of them. He's a San Diego State active player at San Diego State, so he's one of the amateurs. Obviously, Xander went to San Diego State. JJ Spawn is SDSU. I think 3 of the 95 in the field have San Diego State ties. We were talking about the low amateur. The low amateur at the Masters, I mean, what is that? Is that a claim? Does anything come with that beyond, obviously, what comes with being the low amateur at Augusta?
Yeah, you get a medal, and it's an incredible recognition. Obviously, it's a list of players who, many of them have gone on to be great pros: Jack Nicklaus, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, those kind of guys. And so you'd love to be able to have that on your resume. There's nothing specific other than that, but it's a great claim to fame. And there's 5 amateurs in the field this week. Justin, I think he has a real good shot. At being low amateur, the trick obviously is you got to make the cut, and all the amateurs right now, the best one was a 73 today, and so they've got a little bit of work to do to be able to make the cut. If they don't give it out unless you do. So, I've got to believe that was an incredible day for Justin. He's talked all about how the Masters was such a big event for him. As a kid, he would convince his parents that he didn't feel well so he could stay home to watch it on the opening day, Thursday. And so I think, if you think about then the dream of finally getting to play here, that was probably a big thing for him today, and maybe a little bit hard to overcome those emotions. So hopefully he's a little bit more settled tomorrow, and maybe he can go ahead and make the cut, and then get a chance to be in Butler Cabin with the winner as well when he gets his medal for being low amateur.
For the first time since 2021, Tiger's not in this tournament. Obviously, the torn Achilles. Injuries obviously is the story of Tiger's later half of his career. Is this something where this could really make it very difficult for Tiger to even play again. I mean, it's a torn Achilles. That's a big one right there.
Yeah, when you heard the news in March, obviously you're like, oh gosh, what's that mean for the rest of this year? And talking to medical experts in general about an Achilles tear, I mean, essentially puts him out of the hunt for any major championship this year. It's going to be too long to recover. The fact that he wasn't here this week at the Champions Dinner last night or on Monday when they announced that he was going to be building a short course in the local area here, I mean, it suggested to me, obviously, that injury is still, obviously he's trying to recover from it, but probably just walking around is probably hard right now. He's probably in a boot. Probably can't put a lot of pressure on it. So I think golf in 2025 it's a long shot if we're going to see him play in any event. And if that's the case, he turns 50 in December. To your point, the injuries have just mounted and mounted and mounted. And at some point here, you just wonder, is it really worth trying to fight through them all to be able to play again out there? Now, I think Tiger Woods is going to want to do that, but to see him in any kind of semblance of what we saw, even in 2019 here, I think we're a long way away from that and likely not ever going to see it again.
I thought, though, he said on X that he was going to play, even with the Achilles. Hey, I'm going to play the Masters. Just kidding. April Fools.
April Fools. I'll give him a lot of credit for doing something like that. I mean, that's a different kind of Tiger Woods. Now, if I were him, I would have held the punchline a little longer than he did.
Yeah.
Good for him for an April Fool's joke.
It was a good joke. But yeah, everyone would like to see him out there. But it is, you begin to wonder, if you will have another chance to see him out there at Augusta in his career. Ryan, always appreciate the coverage and you taking time for us here in San Diego. Enjoy this weekend and hope we can do it again soon.
It's my pleasure. I love to come on anytime. Thanks.
All right. Great stuff from Ryan Harrington, again, the managing editor at Golf Digest, where, again, round one is well underway. In fact, they're nearly wrapping up the first round in Augusta, Georgia, as we speak, within the hour.
My buddies are texting me in our group chat, and I got this text during the Ryan Harrington interview.
Yeah.
Rory was balling, just effed up on 15 bad, chip shot for eagle, putt in the water. We don't have it on the television.
No, we don't. We have the big Red Sox Blue Jays game.
Yeah, big Red Sox game.
But listen, even like he just said, a double bogey on 15, and even if he were to finish one or two under par through his first round, he's still probably fairly well positioned. Now, he could have been better positioned if he didn't have that, but he'll be fairly well positioned.
So he's now at 2 under.
Okay.
So double there on the 15th. Dropped from tied from second to tied for sixth. But it's not the end of
it's
the
early.
world. It's not the end of the world.
Right. Like, Padres haven't played. We're pretending like the Padres won the World Series. They haven't played a 10th of their season.
No, it just would have been nice.
This is, 1/4 of the Masters.
Yeah, get to the weekend, moving day on Saturday, be in contention, within striking distance on Sunday.
He may be.
And that's all you could ask for. It kind of feels like the narrative around this tournament this year is, if not now, when for Rory, right? He has been so close so many times, and he just has not been able to get over that hump. And if he does, the career Grand Slam, that's, something that, just a handful of golfers have done.
Mm-hmm.
He could be the 6th all time to have a career Grand Slam. And so, it's the field, obviously it's stacked, but if not now, when for Rory?
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right. On the other side, there's some breaking Major League Soccer news that I think San Diego FC fans will be interested to hear. Plus, John Wilner Hotline, has written extensively on the Pac-12 and realignment and what comes next for the future Pac-12, which San Diego State is included in. He'll join us coming up at 3:30. Darnay Tripp, friend of the show, according to us, at 5 p.m. Stay with us, John and Jim.
San Diego Sports.
right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. John Wilner Hotline on what's next for the Pac-12. Remember all that news? That was over a half year ago when San Diego State announced, along with other schools in the Mountain West, they were leaving for the Pac-12. But expansion hasn't been completed. The Mountain West TV deal hasn't been completed. Do you know that was over a half year ago? They made that announcement. September of 2024. So what comes next? John Wilner will join us coming up at 3:30. You want me to do that interview?
No,
What questions you have for John Wilner?
What question do I have?
Yes.
Has the Pac-12 gotten closer to finding a team to
That's a good question.
add to the conference?
Perfect.
Timeline on TV deal.
Okay.
Who's the front runners to be their TV partners?
You have good questions. Now, sure, I've written all those in, but you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
No, you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, does he know how our buddy George?
Huh?
I was waiting for you to do.
I forgot
Just
about. I had
doing
forgotten.
just a wellness check on our buddy.
Yeah, that is a
that's
good
all I'm
point. Where
concerned
is he, man? You talk about witness protection.
Dude.
He's probably on some milk can somewhere.
George. Now,
right,
what? Real quick. Did you see this tweet? It made no sense to me. So Brett McMurphy, and this wasn't an April Fool's Day joke,
Okay.
because this was tweeted on April 7th.
Okay.
Did you see this?
I don't know what you're about to say, so maybe.
It's actually Brett McMurphy's X account. He said, sources, Sasquatch State considering Pac-12 invite would be huge
So
for
this is
league's
over
future media.
This is
deal.
over your head.
Way over my head. Can you
Yeah.
please explain this to me?
Yeah, it was Kelvin Sampson that said during a TV timeout to the sideline reporter, like, it's not like we're playing Sasquatch State in the Big 12. So that's when that kind of went like viral.
Okay, I missed that.
You missed that. I don't think Sasquatch
completely
State is
missed-
joining the Pac-12.
I completely missed that.
Believe it or not.
My apologies. But I saw that and I was like, I need context because I don't know what this means.
Yeah, no, it was a joke.
Okay.
All right. So the breaking news this afternoon from Major League Soccer and its Board of Governors is they were considering changing the schedule for Major League Soccer to go from, I guess, what they would technically call spring to fall. They start March 1, let's say. They end mid-October, let's say. That's their regular season, okay? It's about, how long is that, 7 or 8 months? What they were considering was to match up with the world's schedule for soccer, the European League. Some of the best leagues in the world start in the fall, end in the spring. It's longer than that, but you start late, I'm making it up, October, and you go till May, right? So you go through the winter months. This is what a majority of the leagues around the world do. This has always been pushback with American soccer, Major League Soccer. Why doesn't their schedule line up with the rest of the world schedule? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the winters are harsh in some of these cities in America and Canada where MLS is played. Well, they've kicked the can, so to speak. This was potentially going to be introduced after the World Cup in the U.S. and North America in 2026. So starting in the fall of 26, you would have gone to the spring of 27 to play Major League Soccer. They won't do that in 26. They may consider it again at the end of 2027. So the fall of 27 into 2028. But for 30 years, Major League Soccer has resisted the urge to match up their calendar with the rest of the world when it comes to professional soccer.
Yeah, it would. Again, I'm not like fully knowledgeable of.
Just stop right there.
Of the schedule of the rest of the world, but
well, it's winter, right? Like Premier League.
Yes,
right.
I'm
December
not,
and January and February they're playing.
But also, if you did that in the States, like you mentioned there's this thing called weather, and wintertime.
Weather, it's winter. Yeah,
wintertime would be a problem.
You have teams in Minnesota outside. You have teams in Canada outside. You have New England. You have Chicago,
Seattle.
Yeah, that's not exactly as harsh, I wouldn't say.
But it's still rainy in the wintertime in Seattle.
True. I mean, yeah, they deal with rain. There's no doubt. So, yeah, it's harsher. Like, as a season ticket holder, do you want to be in your seats?
New York?
January 3rd in New England or Chicago or Minneapolis or these Canadian cities? Yeah, so I get it. So I understand why you wouldn't do it, but it kind of gets wonky with all these, like, players that are available to you on loans, right? Because the leagues are going on when yours isn't, and vice versa.
Right.
And also when you're trying to raise the profile of your league, the one thing that has routinely been brought up is when you're not matching the world's calendar. Like, it's hard to be considered a peer to some of these leagues. You're doing it like your own way. Nobody else is doing it that way.
I just don't think that they have figured it out. So they're just going to, like you said, kick the can down the road to 2027 and probably further after that. Because there'd be so many things that they would need to figure out,
like heaters.
Like, hey, we have these soccer specific stadiums that are outdoor stadiums in colder weather, places during obviously the winter time, and flipping that schedule around, that would just change a lot.
And do you want to? I mean, it's so hard if you're Major League Soccer, because do you want to spend most of your season up against the NFL? But then again, your season right now is ending during the NFL season. But if you started, like, hear me out, if you started December 1, you got weeks and weeks and weeks going up against the most important parts of the NFL season.
And
weeks
playoffs,
12 and 13 and playoffs and Super Bowl. So, like, you're 10, 12 weeks until anyone's paying attention.
Right. And I think the weather
is probably the biggest issue.
It, to me, feels like the biggest, because how many rainouts? I mean, they can't play in the rain. There's ain't football where you just play in the rain, or you play in the snow.
No, they can play in the rain.
Soccer?
Of course.
So
they cancel games because of rain in Major League Soccer? I've never heard of that.
Don't they?
No.
I thought they do.
70470.
Oh, wait, you're right. No, you're right. But still, fans-wise, rain.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Right. But it can rain in the summer.
It can rain in the summer, but not like it does in wintertime, where it could, be 30 degrees in back east, or potentially snow and just
it makes sense that they haven't done it, but it would make sense to consider it if you eventually want to have your league considered or on par with other international leagues. John Wilner Hotline on Pac-12 expansion and media rights, what it means for San Diego State next.
It's the Marketer's Report. Today, Erica
Wilner Hotline, great resource for fans of college athletics, including here in San Diego with San Diego State. There's been so much going on, obviously, with Pac-12 and media rights and expansion. It feels like it just never stops. And John Wilner has done an amazing job covering it over the years. He's back with us right now on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So first of all, John, we appreciate the time. Secondly, for those that haven't been following, like it's been a half year since those Mountain West schools joined this new look Pac-12. Like, what's the latest here? Since those expansion efforts from about a half year ago, Gonzaga in the fold, Utah State as well, what comes next in this saga, so to speak?
Yeah, well, not much has happened in the last 6 months. The Pac-12 has been looking for a media rights deal that would start for the 8 schools. It would start in the summer of 2026. But what they're trying to do is kind of attach it to the upcoming football season, so that Washington State and Oregon State would have their games on in the fall. I think that they're going to probably end up with something here in the next month or so. The most likely scenario is that they're going to have multiple media partners, so they're not going to be all in with a single network, and it's going to be a deal where, there's probably some over-the-air network, a little bit of cable, and then some streaming as well. We'll see which networks end up signing up. I think the CW is probably a pretty good bet. I think Turner, since it lost the NBA, may be looking to add some college sports and maybe ESPN as well. But there could be any kind of combination of 2 or 3 networks that end up with the rights to the Pac-12.
Yeah, how creative do you think they're going to get here? Because if you're saying like maybe multiple media outlets, it sounds like if they can't get that big one singular media outlet, that they're going to have to try to get as creative as possible here, right?
Well, I think that they would like to have their preference is to get multiple outlets. Okay. And that's what most conferences have. The Big Ten's got 3. Big 12's got 2. The ACC and SEC are both all in with ESPN, but having a variety, and the current Mountain West has got CBS and Fox. So having a variety is not a bad thing. The creativity question is very interesting because in a lot of ways, the Pac-12 is, starting over and starting from scratch with a media deal. So they could construct something where, they're playing different days of the week a few times during the season, whether it's Sunday or Monday, Friday. I think that they've got that option, and then they're going to try to break it down so that they have some linear exposure. That's the biggest thing, is you can't become irrelevant. And if you're only on streaming, even if it's giving you more money, you can become irrelevant. So I think that they're going to try for the CW and or Turner, ESPN, Fox as kind of the anchor for the football season. And then basketball, we'll see. That they could get creative there too. And we don't know how many more schools they're going to add, right? We know they need one more football playing school, but they could decide that they want to add 2 or 3 that don't play football and play basketball and focus a lot on basketball. So we'll see, but I think we'll have a good idea here in the next few weeks.
John Wilner Hotline with us right now, San Diego Sports 760, John and Jim, and kind of on cue because you wrote about this today, this idea that, well, money matters, but exposure matters. Which matters more right now? You just touched on this. You think it's exposure. Are those the conversations that are happening right now in the Pac-12 office that, yeah, you might be able to get more, but to what end is it worth to get more money if you're not getting the coverage you're seeking? Yeah,
no, I think that's right. They are having that conversation. I mean, it's one of many strategic conversations that they've got to have. They're sending out bids for their content, and they may not get exactly what they want. Optimally, you get the most money and the most exposure on linear television, but they're probably not going to get that. They're probably going to have to choose which way to lean. And I just think, whether each school is making $8 million a year or $9.5 million a year, that's still like 30 or 40 million behind the major conferences, right? So it's on the margins. But if you're not on linear, then you're not being seen. You're not being talked about on social media. You're not being talked about on the studio shows on Fox and ESPN. They can't disappear, right? It's a hard enough battle with the rebuilt Pac-12 just based on the schools that are in there, right? They're not the blue bloods. So it only would get worse for them if they are majority streaming, at least for football. I think they have to have their football game of the week has got to be on over-the-air television. And to me, the CW would be the most likely candidate. And I think that's fine. CW is in like 100 million homes, right? People will see it. It's putting your best football game on, a streaming platform behind a paywall that I think would be disastrous.
What are some schools that are candidates to join the Pac-12 in basketball and football, in your opinion?
Well, I think Texas State, at least the way I view it, Texas State is got a pretty good shot to get in at football. There's still a lot of talk. Could they add Memphis and Tulane, South Florida? But I don't think that they're going to have enough money to lure those schools because those schools are already making $9 or $10 million a year in media deals. So the Pac-12 would have to come at them with 12 or 13 or 14 million to make it worthwhile, given how much more they're going to spend on travel if they're in a Pac-12. So to me, the American schools are going to be tough to get. I think Texas State makes a lot of sense because you want to be in Texas. And there still could be some Mountain West schools in play, right? The complicating factor and what turns it into like five-dimensional chess is the lawsuits against the Mountain West. One is the poaching penalty lawsuit that Pac-12 has filed. That's over $55 million in penalties that the Mountain West says it's owed. And the other is the exit fee penalty that Utah State, Boise State, and Colorado State have filed against the Mountain West for like basically $20 million a school, and they don't want to pay all that. So you put it together, and there's like $100 million almost at stake between the schools of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. And if the Mountain West doesn't collect what it thinks it's going to get, it won't have enough money. It won't be able to make the payments it promised to UNLV and Air Force last fall. And then who knows what could happen. The Mountain West could, dissolve. And in that case, the Pac-12 would have its pick of some of those schools as well.
John, is that part of the timeline then in terms of media rights and expansion to wait on these, I don't know, are there mediation efforts between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West? As in, does that need to be resolved before the Pac-12 resolves what's coming next for it?
I don't think so. So they are talking about mediation. They have not, to the best of my knowledge, decided on a mediator and entered into mediation. Pac-12, I think, is going to wrap up its media rights deal before the poaching penalty lawsuit is resolved. And that could take months, right? I mean, if you think back when Washington State and Oregon State sued the departing 10 Pac-12 schools in the fall of 2023, I mean, they had like 8 or 10 sessions of mediation that lasted, I want to say, 3 months. So we don't know how long if they do mediate, we don't know how long it's going to go. And the Pac-12 can't afford to wait, 2 or 3 months to get a media deal done. They got to get moving. The thing is that none of the schools that they could add are going to materially change the value of the Pac-12 package. So they can kind of go to market and talk to the networks and get a number, even if they don't know what the final membership structure is going to look like.
That makes sense. John, final question from us here, and we appreciate you taking time, is even if you add a Texas State, that would be the 8th football playing member, which is the requirement, and that could work. But then you're looking at maybe 7 conference games and 5 non-conference games, at least initially. Does that make sense? Again, maybe it works in a short term, but like would Texas State, in your opinion, be paired with another Texas school for things like men's basketball travel or other sports travel?
I think that ideally that would be the case. I actually have looked at this. It's from Denver to Austin. Texas State is like between Austin and San Antonio. It's in a booming area. It's 2-hour flight from Denver to Austin.
Gotcha.
It's not ideal. I think they would prefer to add another Texas school, but I just don't know how realistic it is. The 7 conference games is kind of a problem. It's expensive to schedule non-conference games. I mean, the FCS schools, they know that there is a supply-demand calculation that is in their favor, and they are charging a lot of money for some of those non-conference games. One option would be to set up a deal where you actually played one team home and home. So like one year, San Diego State would play Colorado State home and home. The next year they'd play Boise home and home. That kind of gets you an 8th conference game without having to spend the money for it.
That's interesting. John, love the insight and the reporting. Again, for our listeners, you can check it out. Wilner Hotline, just great insight for our listeners here in San Diego. So thank you for doing it. We hope to have you again at some point soon, but thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great stuff. John Wilner Hotline. All right. Let me take that all in for a few moments.
Are you okay?
I'm okay. I just need to take that all in and then react to it. We'll have the wrap coming up. Darnay will join us. Darnay Tripp.
Our best friend.
At 5 p.m. Plus, we're giving away Sesame Place tickets.
Oh.
That's right. No, that's not. Mickey doesn't work at Sesame Place.
I didn't.
It's Elmo.
That wasn't my Mickey.
Oh, it sounded like it.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
That was my just like regular Jim.
All right.
Do that again.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Sesame Place tickets coming up soon. Stay with us, John and Jim.
San Diego Sports.
All right, so we've told you about this, Jim. It's iHeartRadio week, and it's only on Wheel of Fortune. Listen to this. Tonight, country superstars or superstar Lady A stops by. Is Lady A group or just Lady A?
Probably Lady Antebellum.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a group, right?
Last
Lady
time I
Antebellum
checked.
is a group. It's not one person, right? It's an act.
Unless there's another
Band.
Lady A out there. Oh, there is a Lady A.
It's a full act.
There is
right?
a Lady A, but it's
Okay.
not Antebellum.
All right.
It's a Nashville vocal trio that mixes country with a sprinkling of 60s soul and a healthy dose of 70s pop.
Are you sure that's not Lady Antebellum?
It says Lady A right here.
I know, but did they change their name?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Thank you.
They were known until 2020 as Lady Antebellum.
Right.
Now they're
It's
just
like
Lady A.
Right. It's like when the Devil Rays changed the Rays.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what it is.
Oh,
I
look
didn't
it
know
up.
either. But,
Sorry.
But again, I mean, if you're Lady A, how could you go up against Lady Antebellum? It's like if you're starting a new baseball team, you shouldn't name them the Blue Sox. There's enough socks out there. They come up with a new name. Anyway, Wheel of Fortune's giving away an unforgettable trip to Las Vegas and the iconic iHeartRadio Festival. Watch Wheel of Fortune. Check your local listings. If we could react momentarily to what John Wilner just told us, he said multiple things of interest.
Hold on.
What's the number one thing that he said?
For you, no, I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
And then you tell me yours.
You want to do a 3, 2, 1? That's not going to work.
I'll just do mine.
What's yours? Because I bet ours are different.
Okay.
What is yours?
Mine's the timetable.
Oh, that was mine.
Okay.
He said he expects this to be done like within a month.
Like weeks.
Weeks, yeah. And I read something that he wrote today about money versus exposure for the Pac-12. And within there as well, he said late April, early May, he expects it to be finalized.
I'm not that excited. It doesn't really move me by the mention of Texas State.
Can I explain it? And I think that sentiment from you is shared by most people that are fans of Pac-12 schools. Oregon State, Washington State, San Diego State, Boise State. Here's the thought process potentially.
Spin it for me, John.
I'll spin it for you. Let's say they have a dollar amount that the Pac-12 can get from their media partners.
Okay.
Let's just say, I'm making this up, it's $75 million a year. And you're splitting that up. And when you do the math on that, I'm making it up. It's $8 million per school. Okay. If you take Texas State, will Texas State come in for nothing initially or less, therefore giving everyone else more money? So if you're only getting 75 mil, if you took a quote unquote better option, I'll give you an example, UNLV, but you got to give them the full share. Now your money goes down because UNLV is equal with you. But if Texas State is getting less, is everyone else getting more? And here's the other theory. Are the TV networks paying more for anyone? You've already done the heavy lifting. You added Boise State. You added Oregon State, Washington State, San Diego State. Like, where else are you going to turn outside of like a Memphis? But maybe that ship has probably sailed. Plus, they're thousands of miles away.
Okay. That makes sense. I just would hope, and I get it. Like, you just need another school for football. Like, you have to have another school for football. And instead of waiting it out for a potentially bigger school, like you mentioned, like Memphis or Tulane, or even though they've already said that they're staying in their conferences, but my point, we just need somebody to come in here. Texas State is in an area that we all want to be in, recruiting wise, and we get them in the conference. I just hope that they wouldn't just sit there and just settle, that they would continue to be like, okay, we need to reach, higher. Like, we need to try to, we need to get better as the time goes on. But getting Texas State in there from the jump just to get this thing off the ground running, okay. But eventually, let's still look for some better schools to add as we build this conference up and show everybody what we can do. Hopefully, with the new, their media deal, and then hopefully other schools will look at this and say, oh, yeah, maybe I want to be a part of that.
Would you feel better if on the day they announced their last expansion for the time being, it was paired with a basketball school as well? The example being St. Mary's College. Oh. They've been in the NCAA tournament, I don't know, let's say 10 of the last 15 years. They were in it this past year. I think they won a game. They haven't made many Sweet 16s. I think one under Randy Bennett, but they've been a perennial winner, right? Now, it's a small school in the Bay Area, but they've won at a high level. So if they said the day, hey, here's our last expansion for the time being, Texas State football, St. Mary's College for non-football, because they don't have football, And there it is. You got Gonzaga and St. Mary's to pair with San Diego State on the basketball side, right?
Sign me up.
And then the football side, you have the Boise's and the San Diego States, along with the Oregon States and the Washington States. Again, you also have to remember when you put a league together, I mean, almost every league, Jim, in college athletics, there's always a top and a bottom. I mean, the SEC has Vanderbilt, with all due respect, and the Big Ten's always had
There's no respect there.
But the Big Ten's always had Northwestern. You know what? You know my point. Like, Ohio State's got to beat people historically, and Alabama needs to beat people historically. So all leagues have a top and a bottom to them. So that's my 2 cents on it. It might not be Texas State. You know, it could. I actually do think it makes sense. Again, to your point, is it the sexiest addition they can make? No. But does it make financial sense? And does it allow them to continue on with the process and move forward?
Because I could just see it now from all the trolls.
Sure.
Texas State. You serious right now?
Like UT, like the Longhorns? This isn't even the Longhorns.
The conference is a joke.
Yeah,
I can already see it right now from like college football snobs just being like, are you serious right now?
I mean, listen, they could add Penn State and people would be like, I haven't won a national championship since like the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to troll, you're going to troll.
Yeah.
It is true. It's not going to be perceived, at least initially, as a power league. There isn't Florida State or Clemson in the league. You know what I mean? There isn't Ohio State in the league. It was never going to be that. I think by getting the Boise's and the San Diego States with Oregon State and Washington State, you've put yourself in a tier above where you were. That was always the point. You're no longer playing San Jose State and Wyoming. You're now playing Oregon State and Washington State and Gonzaga, for example.
It wasn't a lateral move. It was a step up.
Yeah, step up. Now, is it a step up to the Big Ten? Of course, it's not a step up to the Big Ten.
It's not the step up that you hoped to have, like literally joining the Pac-12 conference as a Power 5 school or Power 5 conference.
Right.
And you had the papers and you're signing them, and then literally 24 hours later, the entire conference explodes.
Right.
It's not like, it's not that, but it's still a step up, and that's what you wanted.
I'm excited for it to be finalized, to see who the TV deal is going to be with Jim. Like, hey, ESPN for basketball or the CW for football. I just want to see it. I want to see what it is.
I can see that now. Texas State gets, the bid to come to the Pac-12, and they have the CW as part of their deal. This is a amateur conference. Are you serious? I could already see it from the trolls.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we're watching Major League Baseball games on .tvs. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, unless you're the NFL, to each their own. On the other side, we'll get to the wrap. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll give away a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. Start a Trip, friend of the show, NBC7, will join us at 5 p.m. It's John and Jim.
These times.
All right, this update is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Padres, they have an off day today. They'll start a 3-game series with the Colorado Rockies tomorrow night. Nick Pivetta will be on the mound for the Padres. And looking at the leaderboard after day 1 in Augusta at the Masters, Justin Rose, he leads the tournament right now at 7 under par. Scotty Scheffler is 4 under par. Rory McIlroy is 2 under par. And San Diego State senior Justin Hastings, he's at +4 after round 1. You're going to want to sit down for this, the jumbo breakfast platter from Jack in the Box. No, seriously, it's so much food. There's French toast sticks, grilled sausage patties, hash browns, and scrambled eggs, all for just $3.99. Get all this and so much more at Jack in the Box.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
The LeBron doll is incredibly detailed, featuring the 4-time NBA champ's signature facial hair, a custom Letterman jacket, crossbody bag.
You actually don't know English.
English, do you speak it?
It's not cross. It's cross. Where are you from? What part of the country were you schooled in?
The Ken doll, or I guess LeBron doll, will be available for $75 in stores and online.
You can get it right across the street from Staples Center.
Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of John and Jim. This hour, your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets. That's valued at hundreds of dollars to Sesame Place here in San Diego. So we'll give those away this hour. Next hour, Darnay Tripp, NBC 7, who he basically said no the last time I asked him. By basically, he said no.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he said yes elsewhere because I saw him around town. He's on this, he's on that, he's everywhere.
Yeah, we saw Darnay.
We've seen everything, right?
We see everything.
But because of our loyalty to Darnay, I swallowed my pride, went back to Darnay today and said, will you join? He laughed in our faces, but said yes.
It was more like a Darnay.
That's what I always do. Come on, bud. He has no desire to do it. But every once in a while, he asks us to do things much less frequently than we ask him to come on the radio show.
Way less frequently.
And I think he has no interest in really joining us, but sometimes he just says yes.
I think he feels bad for us.
Probably.
He's like, I'll throw these guys a bone, I guess.
I'll do it. So Darnay will join us coming up at 5 p.m.
And we are not, by the way, Darnay, if you're listening, we are not asking you to come on our show because you're our last resort. There are things to talk about.
No, I try to text him early so he doesn't think he's a last resort. Because it used to be I would text him at like 2:50. Hey, man, what are you doing at 3:30?
He's like, are you serious?
But now, then I moved it up to like 12:30. He still thought that was late. Then I move it up to like, I'll text him at like 8 or 9 in the morning now. Yeah. As if to say, hey, I'm prioritizing you.
I have a question. So you go on radio hits and interviews across the country for
all the time, Jim.
You have before.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I've been serious. So you have before for like, San Diego State, football and basketball, right?
Of course.
When their producers reach out to you,
mm-hmm.
would you rather have them reach out to you day of? Or would you rather have them reach out to you like the day before or 2 days before, asking you to come on a certain day and time?
They typically ask me a day or two before, which is unlike what we do on John and Jim.
Well, I'm asking what would your preference be
Honestly,
if you were a hot commodity for a guest?
I'd probably prefer to be asked a day or two before, because if you ask me day of, I might be going to the gym or at lunch. It's just harder to organize it. You might be more tied up day of. Why? What do you think?
See, for me,
you prefer it because it's top of mind, maybe?
I might prefer day of early, though. It can't be like, hey, 30 minutes or
right.
an
But
hour.
if someone texted you at 9 and said, can you do 2? You'd be like, okay.
Because then I remember. Because if you asked me 2 days ago,
put it in your phone.
If you asked me 2 days ago, you're gonna forget. Now, obviously, good producers have done this before. Like you retext that person, hey, just reminding you you're coming on. Like when we had Will on the whole season, I'd always text him on Tuesdays just because I didn't want him to forget. Or if we have like like Kevin Acey, he knows because he's on with us every single day, basically.
Yeah, I'm not a big reminder guy. Now I'll do it day of, to your point. But I'll say at 10 a.m., hey, can you do 4:30 Pacific? And if they say yes, That's it. I'll say, great. Our producer will call you then.
See, I'm a big reminder guy because I have been in situations before
where you forget.
No, they forget.
Right.
And so I've texted them like 2 days ago or yesterday or whatever, be like, hey, 4:30. And
here's
then
what I typically
4:30 comes, I call them, they don't answer, and I haven't heard from them. And then it turns into a segment where we're kind of scrambling. Yeah.
Here's what I typically do. And they say, hey, can you come on today at 2:30? I say yes. And then I immediately follow up with a link to my Venmo.
Does it work?
But then when I ask people to come on, I would never pay a penny.
Never.
But no, I've never done that. But
I've gotten that before.
Well, we've been asked before. I'm saying we've never paid. Like you and I don't pay to have guests on the show, right?
We don't pay.
We don't pay. But I'm saying I've been asked before, or I only do it. I have an agreement with X, or I would do it for X. And be like, well, we're offering Y, and Y happens to be nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, it's a radio hit.
I'll never forget when I first started producing in the business.
Mm-hmm.
I was so green. I just was like, screw it. And
I'm reaching out to like LeBron James.
I'm reaching out to guys that nowadays I'm like, dude, you had no shot. Like for some odd reason, I got Rodney Harrison's phone number and I decided to call him.
You called Rodney Harrison?
That was a bad idea.
How mad was he?
He was not happy. He hung up on me. He told me, if you want me, you have to go through my agent. But I was like, okay. And then I called Greg Cosell. Very nice, but
like NFL Network or
he's
NFL
on with
Films.
Colin Cowherd all the time. He's massive. Called Greg Cosell and he's like, who are you? And then he goes, yeah, I only come on if I'm getting paid. So I'm like,
so you learned the lesson. Here is my theory.
You just gotta learn lessons sometimes.
Let me take people behind the curtains. You know how I like to do that. And tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong in San Diego. Is it really going to make a discernible difference to our listeners? Let's use the examples you just gave us. If Rodney Harrison comes on the show or if Greg Cosell comes on the show, is that a better show? Not to say that they're not reputable or good guests. They are. And they're on things like Sunday Night Football. Yes, make no mistake. But is it overly impactful? Is it changing the trajectory of the show? Is it bringing more listeners to the radio if we had Rodney Harrison on the show?
Well, not Rodney Harrison, but certain guests, absolutely.
Yes, certain guests. I agree with that. But I'm saying like, it's like the Ricky Waters for who, for what? Like if we go get the starting quarterback for the New York Giants, who did they just sign?
Russell Wilson.
Right. Who cares? Right now in New York
would care.
Yeah, there are people that care, but I'm saying for our audience.
Correct. Now, again, when I was reaching out to like Rodney Harrison and Greg Cosell, those were the times when the Chargers were here.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes a perfect sense.
Yep.
But yeah, I find shows nowadays in radio and podcasting, like guests are obviously needed. You need guests on shows, but a lot of times I tune in to shows for like the talent, and I tune into shows for their opinion.
Yeah, I don't tune in. I mean, I'll use even national guys as an example. I mean, I don't listen to the Herd because of who he brings on. A lot of people listen to Colin Cowherd because of Colin. Or right. Dan Patrick's the same thing. Now they get guests and they have good ones. Dan Patrick can have some elite guests.
I would say of the two, Colin and
Patrick,
Dan Patrick.
Patrick has better guests.
Dan Patrick has better.
He does.
Guests.
No, Colin could get some guests, and there's other shows out there that get ridiculous guests, right? Pat McAfee with the power of ESPN.
Yeah, but those are like. Here's the thing between those three, right?
Okay.
Dan, when he has those guests on, like big time, right? He has conversations.
Oh, well, it's like a real interview.
And that's what made Darren so good, and what makes Darren so good with interviews is they're having just like conversations, and that is what Dan Patrick does really well. Colin, he can be a little like forceful, I feel like, with his conversations. Still very good interviews, but Colin, I don't know. They're very good. Don't get me wrong. They're very good.
It's different. I would say, honestly, from
Pat,
an interview perspective, and you're right, locally, Darren did an amazing job for a long time with interviews, and that's hard to do.
We learned from Dan Patrick. So,
well, I was going to say, that's interesting. Said Dan Patrick is a brilliant interviewer, and here's why I say it. There are times you could listen to an interview that he conducts. He says nothing.
Yeah, he's like, so what's going on there?
Say, oh, it's interesting you said that about the par 5. Had you said that before? Like just he won't lead his question. He could ask 2, 3, 4 words. It's very calm. He gets a lot out of people by not leading them and not saying a lot. It's almost like he puts the onus on the guest to say a lot by not talking a lot. I think that's a really amazing skill.
How did we get here?
I don't know. You brought it up. You're like, oh, let me ask you something.
Oh, it's because of Darnay.
Have you been asked to come on?
No, I haven't.
You're saying, should we ask Darnay? Do you think he would prefer if we asked him like on a Monday, hey, will you come on Wednesday? Yeah. But I don't know what's going on Wednesday. My issue with booking guests in advance is if I book John Wilner for Thursday, but on Thursday, Jack Samaro gets a 9-year extension, I don't necessarily want to talk Pac-12 TV rights if Jack Samaro gets a 9-year extension. That's my issue because sports happen in real time. We can't predict what's going to happen. We don't know when Jack Samaro is going on the IL or getting a 9-year extension.
I know because what we're it's an the what am I trying to say? The wheel, the sports wheel is always spinning and it does not stop. You can't, this is not,
can't like box it out.
Yeah.
We've had examples of this, Jim. Like, give me an example where it's like, I don't know, like San Diego State announced they're going to the Pac-12. I'm making it up. Remember that day Pete Thamel tweeted like San Diego State's announced its intention to leave the Mountain West?
How could I forget it?
Do you?
I remember that day. Yeah.
But it's like, well, that day you're not going to start the show with like a guest on the NHL. That's a bad example. We don't talk NHL. Anyway, the point is I'd prefer to do it day of.
So I got you the day of now.
Oh, yeah. Because, yeah. No, well, that's how I do it because, I mean, in booking this show, I do a lot of it day of because we're on in the afternoon. If we're on earlier in the day, you can't do it.
Well, that's what I asked you because a lot of what we do is day of. But then you would prefer if you were going on someone else's show to someone ask you multiple days in advance.
Probably.
So I find that, it's like, okay, that's why I think, look, for some people, you have to do a couple days in advance because people's schedules are crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to ask for Brian Dutcher day of.
No, that's it. That's a multiple day in advance.
Let's work it out. Yeah, hey, he could do Tuesday after this Monday game, and here's why.
Yeah. If we ever got a Padre player on the show,
we wouldn't have asked the same day.
Right. It will, first of all, never happen. But, we would have to ask days in advance.
Right.
Darnay, we love you. Day of's fine.
Yeah.
And by the way, real quick, pause. Hey, Ben Fadden, I know you're listening. Shut your mouth. All right.
Wow. What did he say? Because he called you out.
Be quiet. All right. Stand down. Okay.
At least he's listening. It's all good.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right. On the other side, let's get to the wrap. Plus, we've got some NBA TV numbers for Luka's return to Dallas, and we'll give away Sesame Place tickets, Darnay trip. After all that, the point is Darnay will join us today at 5 p.m. from NBC 7. But on the other side, we'll get to the wrap. This is John and Jim.
San Diego Sports.
All right, AM radio keeps vital voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now to support keeping AM radio in cars. Tell your member of Congress to pass legislation now and keep AM radio in cars standard message and data rates applied. Darnay Trip at 5. Sesame Place tickets will give away later this hour. And right now, let's get to this.
It's time for The Wrap, presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Is this weekend a must-win series for the Padres?
Stop it, John.
I didn't write it. It's the Wrap guy. Whoever puts those together.
You stop it. You serious? Absolutely it is.
Of course it is. It's the Rockies at home.
Why would you think anything differently?
Of course it isn't, but I will promise you we will all be crying loudly if the Padres lose a home series to the Rockies. That is true.
And if Tatis and Jake don't play in the series?
Well, then maybe it changes the calculus a little bit. I mean, if you didn't have Tatis and Cronenworth all series and Merrill too, but then it would be like sky is falling stuff. Where are these players? They just lost a home series to the Rockies. So because of all that, just go win the series.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a must-win series.
No.
It's a, of course, definite must-win series. No.
Yeah, it's not a must-win. It's absolutely a must-win series.
The Rockies have been awful. They've been awful on the road. Just go win the series.
Yeah, I don't want to come in here on Monday and see people being like, I can't believe they didn't sweep.
Right. I mean, just win the series.
Yeah.
I'll take a sweep, but 2 out of 3 is good too.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, when you get out to the start that you got out to, and, a 7-0 start, you're 10-3, just go win series. And then you look up in a month and a half from now, and if you just win a bunch of series, you're looking really good.
Yeah,
just don't
absolutely.
have those, long losing streaks.
No, absolutely. Next question.
Are the Lakers the best team in the West?
No, Oklahoma City is the best team in the West. The Thunder are.
Well, by record, yes.
Yes, by record.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Lakers played the Thunder in a 7-game series, if I was the Thunder, I'd be scared. Just because it's Luka and LeBron. Now, I still think the Thunder would win that series. But, yeah, they're not the best team in the West.
So you think Oklahoma City would win that series. Do you think Oklahoma City would be favored to win that series?
Yes.
Okay. Just because
but not by a lot.
Seed.
Not by a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just because
they have Luka and LeBron.
Yeah, just because I think people will look at the Lakers and say Luka and LeBron and think that they should be the favorites. I mean, there's already people in the media that are rooting and praying that it's the Lakers that go to the NBA Finals this year
OKC.
because they don't want to cover the OKC Thunder.
OKC, yeah.
And you got a bunch of fanboys on ESPN and First Take, and you got a bunch of fanboys on FS1 for the Lakers, and a bunch of people in media that just bow down to LeBron and Clutch, and they're just praying that the Lakers get to the NBA Finals.
Well, they probably won't.
Who do you have out of the West?
I don't have anyone. I guess it would be Oklahoma City, based on the fact that they're 13 games better than anyone in the West. Yeah, that's my theory on it.
They're really good. Now, I will be curious to see how, Shea's, I guess, officiated in the postseason if it comes down to a 7th game, because there are times that, refs are going to let things go in the playoffs. They're not going to call it as ticky-tacky.
I guess I would say the same thing about LeBron.
I know, but Shea lives at the line, and his game is predicated on getting to the line as much as possible. Not his entire game. He can still put up 30 with only going to the line 4 times, but still, there's his game is drawing fouls, a lot of it. So how is he going to be officiated? Is it going to be different in the postseason? And if it is different, I think that could affect him and the Thunder. Just because the fact that they've he lives at the free throw line.
So they were boat raced against the Lakers on Sunday and then bounced back in the game Luka was ejected in to win on Tuesday. It would be a fascinating series. Next question.
Who would you like to see the Pac-12 add for football?
Well, John, I think I'd have to say of the teams that are available.
Right. I mean, no, I'm not going to say Clemson.
I mean, I would have liked Memphis just because you got a basketball program and a football program, and that would be a great fit. I know it's like all the way across the country, but guess what? That's the state of college athletics now. Is you got Stanford and the ACC traveling to the East Coast every single other weekend.
Yeah, to play like Wake Forest.
So it's not something that's like so taboo anymore. It's guess what? The way that college conferences go now, it is like the whole country. Doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. You could be on the West Coast and be in the SEC.
True. The only difference is the SEC TV money makes up for some of that travel.
For sure, but I'm just saying
that is harder to cover, I would say, outside of the power leagues. I'm content with wherever they go here because I think they've done the lion's share of work with the teams they have in the Pac-12.
Sasquatch State?
No, I would go more for, I mean, listen, I think if you could snap your fingers and have UNLV, that makes sense. Although I still think they'll use Vegas for like conference championship games in basketball and football. But I have no issue, truthfully, with Texas State or getting into the state of Texas. I think UNLV makes sense. So I'm not overly concerned, I guess is my point. Next question.
Do you think the Padres should be higher than number 3 in ESPN's power rankings?
What?
Yeah.
I'm
they came
outraged.
in at number 3.
I am so outraged.
You know the top 2.
Let me guess. Dodgers and Phillies?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
So the Dodgers have been number 1 all season. And the Phillies have been number 2 all season.
The power rankings that nobody should care about.
Now the Padres, top 3. That's pretty good.
Is there anything that is what's the word I'm looking for? Less important than power rankings?
There are less important things
in sports.
Polling.
Well, I mean,
which is
kind of like polling.
But people treat polling like it's real. Nobody treats power rankings like they're real. Like people treat the like coaches poll like, oh, Nebraska's 14th in the coaches poll. Can you believe it? Like, okay,
I could make an argument that's infinitely more important than power rankings,
but they aren't though. I mean, maybe it's just coaches poll. I don't think any of it's overly relevant.
Is the power rankings done on ESPN done by one person?
Good point. I see no, it's done by multiple people. I see Jesse Rogers, Doolittle. Like they tell you who wrote the write-ups.
And I love Jesse Rogers. We have him on the show all the time.
It's not his fault.
It's not. Yeah, no, he is an employee of ESPN, and they have bosses, and they say, "Hey, do a power ranking."
That's why this is a must-win. The number 3 Padres are taking on the number 29 Rockies, and last week the Rockies were number 30.
Wow! So the Rockies moved up, even though they've got swept in the last series.
Well, that's because the White Sox moved down. It's not the Rockies moving up.
I got it.
Did you see like the meme or the tweet from one of those like satirical sites that said White Sox install suite where you can't see the field for their fan base, so you don't have to watch the game. There's like a wall. It was like a suite, but there was a wall towards home plate. I thought it was funny.
That's good.
It's pretty good.
I did not see that.
They're probably on pace to win more games than last year. They're 2-9.
Well,
dude, can you imagine
what were they at this time last year?
Like last year was the worst season in baseball history, arguably. I think it was by winning percentage.
Yeah.
They're going to do that again?
Dude, that franchise is a joke.
In the city of Chicago, you're going to go back-to-back years and lose 120, 130 games?
They're not lucky, but imagine if they were in a city with just, they're the only team in town.
I don't know if that'd be better or worse.
Well, it would suck for that city, but at least in Chicago, for fans, right? For fans, they don't have to be miserable 24/7. They can, Bulls suck. Blackhawks, I don't know if they're good. If you're a White Sox fan, you're not a Cubs fan.
I'll tell you, the
Bears are the Bears, so maybe it isn't great.
The biggest trade, the White Sox are now 2-10, by the way. The best move made in baseball over the last year is my buddy Jason Benetti going from the White Sox to the Tigers.
What a move.
Before last season, he leaves. They have the worst record in baseball. The Tigers make the postseason last year. We're like the talk of the Midwest and the city of Detroit. The Tigers have had a good start this year as well, and the White Sox have been embarrassing. All right, the latest on the Padres from an injury perspective on the other side. Sesame Place tickets will give away at 4:45, and Darnay Tripp will join us coming up at 5 p.m. on John and Jim. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 with Darnay Tripp joining us at 5 p.m. and we'll give away those Sesame Place tickets coming up later this hour. It is a Padres off day. They'll be back tomorrow to take on the Rockies here at Petco Park. The stories, of course, this week have been the health of the Padres. Jackson Merrill going on the IL. Fernando Tatis Jr., Jay Cronenworth both missing yesterday's game in Sacramento. But 10-3 is 10-3, and we're all curious to see what it looks like tomorrow when that lineup card is posted. Like that, to me, it's not as important as the game, but that's going to be a huge story when we see that lineup. Does it look like Wednesday, where that lineup was truly unique with 3 guys out? Or does it look more like what we've seen this year, just with the absence of Jackson Merrill, who stays in the IL?
All right, real quick. Back to these power rankings for a second.
Yeah, what do you got?
What does it say about the Padres?
What do you mean?
There's a little paragraph there, right?
Oh, what does it say? I thought you meant like being third. What does it say about
No, I could care less. I just want to hear what.
I mean, it says they have the second best ERA.
I want to hear what
bullpens.
ESPN has to say about the Padres ranked third in their power rankings.
All right. San Diego finally lost a game after playing on the road for the first time this past weekend in frigid Chicago.
Okay.
Despite a series loss, the arrow is still pointing up for the Padres, who boast the 3rd lowest ERA in baseball during the opening weeks of the season. Their bullpen's even better, ranking 2nd with a stellar 1.78 mark entering Wednesday. Even without Tanner Scott, it's as nasty as ever, as righties Jason Adam and Jeremiah Estrada have been nearly untouchable. The same can be said for closer Robert Suarez, as well as a couple of other back-end guys. It has propelled San Diego to a fast start. Jesse Rogers. So it's predicated on their pitching is the write-up, that they've got the 3rd best ERA in baseball. They have the 2nd best bullpen ERA in baseball, and that is why they're a top 3 team in the sport right now.
Okay, it's great. I just wanted to hear that because I always find it so funny that, people look at these power rankings and actually take them seriously because they're really they're just not.
The season is so long. What do we rank? We're going to do a daily or weekly ranking. I mean, they're going to change.
And again, Jesse Rogers has a boss that tells him to do this. But,
yeah, he only wrote some of the write-ups.
But still, it's so funny to me that people actually legitimately look at these power rankings and then they talk about them like they're actually something to be talked about, or fans look at them and they take it to heart. Like, who cares?
Do you think there's like outrage based on do you think there's like group chats with friends? Like, can you believe ESPN has this at 11th? You know what I mean? Like, are there guys in the Bay Area like talking about where the Giants are ranked, or in Philadelphia saying, "Oh, we're number 2. We should be number 1. We won the series against the Dodgers. Why are the Phillies behind the Dodgers?" Yeah, I'm with you on power rankings. It's one of those things that I feel like just exists for people to click on it, right? And to be topical or discussed. But none of it is relevant. None of it means anything to me. The only power ranking that matters in sports is who wins the postseason.
For sure.
Like, I don't care if the Dodgers have a historic year, and I don't think they will, and win 117 games. If the Dodgers set a Major League Baseball record for wins in a regular season, but they don't win the World Series, no one cares.
Nobody cares.
If the Kentucky Wildcats go undefeated but lose to Wisconsin in the Final Four, nobody's going to remember their undefeated season. So what matters is what you do in postseasons, like in American sports, like not power rankings. It's what you do in postseasons. It's fun. It's fun for fodder, but I would never make anything of it. Like, you can't talk about it obsessively. Like, I can't believe they're 9th in the power ranking. That's really bothered me.
I can't believe it. They're 3rd. They should be 1st. Now, again, the only time I would ever look at those power rankings and be like, what's going on here? Say the Padres had legitimately, as they do right now, the best record in baseball, but we're in like August and they're still 3rd in power rankings. I'd be like, okay, what's going on?
But would you even care?
No, I wouldn't. It would be fake outrage.
How about here? I'll give you some fake outrage or a story we can talk about.
Give me the fakest outrage you possibly can have right now.
The Cubs have acquired Tom Cosgrove from the Padres for...
It's not even fake outrage.
No, I mean, here's a story that isn't overly relevant, but I mean, Tom Cosgrove pitched the major leagues with the Padres, but Tom Cosgrove has been acquired by the Chicago Cubs for money. So Tom Cosgrove, who, let's see, a year ago in the major leagues had an 11.66 ERA. The year prior had a 1.75 ERA with the Padres. In 2023 had a 1.75 ERA. Has been shipped to Chicago for cash. Okay. Lefty reliever. I mean, they've had, again, what Jesse just wrote. I mean, they're loaded in their bullpen, the Padres. And Tom Cosgrove was buried in AAA, right?
He was. He came up when he first came over to the Padres. He was really good. He was the guy
Terrific.
He was the guy that was like the secret weapon for Shohei Ohtani. He made him look silly. Now, again, Shohei was on the Angels at that time. But
I remember that.
Did not look good against Tom Cosgrove. And then he just nosedive.
Things happen quick.
Very quick.
But you're at 175 in 54 games in 2023 as a rookie. That's a year. Now, last year, listen to this, 14 and 2/3 innings, hit an 11.66. And I guess it's just outside of the organization's plans at this point. Early on this year, because I think he's 4 appearances this year, 7.36 in El Paso. So I don't know if 2023 was just lightning in a bottle stuff or what's happened. Hopefully he can reclaim his career in Chicago, and hopefully the Padres have more money.
Well, they might face Tom Cosgrove next weekend. Not weekend, but next week, because Cubbies come to town on Monday.
That's a good point. Now, is Cosgrove going to be ticketed for the major leagues off this deal, starting the year in AAA? Maybe.
Do you see a scenario late in that game, 8th inning, Padres trail by a run?
Go to Cosgrove
against Gavin Sheets.
And he has all the insight because he was in the organization. And they still hit him.
I don't think Gavin Sheets even knows who Tom Cosgrove is.
I don't think Tom Cosgrove knows who Gavin Sheets is, to be honest.
I don't think Manny Machado knows Tom Cosgrove.
No, yes, he does. He was there for a better part of 2 seasons. They're probably buddies.
If I had lie detector test Manny Machado, showed a picture of Tom Cosgrove,
would he say it immediately?
Like, who is this person? Maybe he does. Maybe he has a better memory than a lot of people do with teammates.
Right.
Unlike me, who I can't remember anybody's name if my life depended on it.
Correct.
But yeah, Tom Cosgrove.
Tom Cosgrove to the Cubs for cash. Let's go to the phones quick.
Did we mention TV?
What?
I said Dave called in.
Did we mention TV? 877-767-4760. We have Sesame Place tickets to give away in a few minutes, but Dave wants to weigh in. Dave, thanks for calling in to John and Jim.
Hey, thanks again, boys. Hey, last night I'm going to test your sports update knowledge. Who was the pitcher? The most famous pitcher that gave Jim Russell his cemented forever icon into San Diego radio. He struck again last night.
You're talking about Emilio Pagan?
What did Emilio Pagan do?
Emilio Pagan, 10th inning last night for the Cincinnati Reds, gives up, Jim, are you ready? The 2-run homer to Mike Yastrzemski for the Giants to win.
Is that right?
Wow.
I didn't realize that was Pagan. I saw the Yastrzemski.
He's on the Reds now? That's an awful place for him to pitch. That's an awful place for him to pitch in that bandbox.
Was that all you had, Dave?
It's unbelievable, boys.
That was it. All right. That's what he wanted to talk about. Emilio Pagan giving up a home run to Mike Yastrzemski.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are slow around here when Dave's biggest complaint is Emilio Pagan giving up home runs to Mike Yastrzemski. That's how you know things are good.
He does have one of the best nicknames for a pitcher. Actually, it's not one of the best, but
Pagan. I don't think he would prefer that.
It's the best if you are facing
the opponent. Yeah.
It's not good if you're a
he
fan
had some
of that
bad
team.
outings, man. Didn't he allow there was a night he allowed 4 home runs.
That was the Dodger game.
That wasn't good.
I lost my mind.
Yeah. I'm like, why are you out there? How could you get a 4th batter after 3 of them have hit home runs? What have you done to deserve a 4th batter?
And the best was I lost it because in the bullpen, they showed him looking on his iPad. Remember this?
Oh, yeah. What is he looking at?
It's what are you looking at, dude? You just gave up 4 bombs. Whatever you're looking at, it's not helping you.
Dude.
I have an idea. Pitch better, bro.
I mean, that's going back away. 2020? Was that the COVID
season? No, 2021.
Okay. Yeah.
It's 2021. We're still doing shows after games on the radio here.
Yep.
How we survived that, I have no idea. And I lost my mind. That was the end of the season because it was the collapse of 2021. And they were just losing game after game after game after game.
Tatis Machado in St. Louis?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Well, that was the first game.
Aztecs were in Carson that night. That's because I remember leaving, and that was the big story.
We started the wrap-up show on YouTube that weekend of after
September
Manny
2021
Tatis incident.
Yeah, you're right. I remember.
Still feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does. Call right now if you want Sesame Place tickets. We have a 4-pack of tickets. All right, this prize is valued at hundreds of dollars. This is for Sesame Place here in San Diego with a free 4-pack of tickets. All you need to do is call 877-767-4760. Call right now. First 2 callers will be contestants for trivia, and then one of you is winning a free 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place coming up. All you need to do is call right now. 877-767-4760. We're giving away a free 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place here in San Diego. Call right now. It's John and Jim. Darnay Tripp standing by, waiting to join us in 14 minutes in the green room.
Sitting there, like looking at his phone, like counting down the minutes until it comes on the John and Jim show.
He's probably charging it, checking his AirPods, making sure everything's connected Bluetooth-wise.
He's like, honey, when I get the phone call, I'm going to need you and the twins to go in the other room, and we need to be quiet because this is a
Why don't you
very
get a hotel?
Very important.
I've been on the radio for 9 minutes. Get a hotel.
Rent a hotel room.
Yeah, get a room.
Get one down at the Omni.
Kind of a big deal right now. Darn trip.
They're checking in for 14 minutes.
Standing by. Will join us at 5 p.m. If you missed John Wilner Hotline with the latest on the Pac-12, how it relates to San Diego State, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30. Padres back in action tomorrow. By the way, the team ranked number 2 in the power rankings ahead of the Padres at ESPN is losing right now in Atlanta.
Oh, come on.
Those number 2 Phillies are losing right now to the Braves in a rainstorm in Atlanta. But Darnay is going to join us in about 10 or so minutes. We've got a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place to give away. So let's do that right now.
Greetings. Here we go. Time for Team John versus Team Jim.
You want me to play?
3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 life. Or whatever. Today's 2 contestants, we have Daniel and we have Steve. Daniel, you called in first. We have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with today?
Let's go with John.
All right, Daniel and John.
Daniel and John. Steve, you get Jim, okay?
You got it.
All right, Brian, what's the question of the day?
All right, guys, did you know that the Padres have the top batting average in all of baseball with a 286 average? Yeah. Today's question, name any other team in the top 10 in batting average this year.
Okay. I like that question. Steve, you're up first. What's your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go with the Phillies.
The Phillies.
So the Phillies have they do have a top 10 batting average to support their number 2 power ranking.
Yeah, they're number 2 in the power rankings. Of course they have a top 7 batting average.
Right.
Daniel, you're up next. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go Dodgers.
Dodgers.
It seems safe, right?
Yeah.
Seems it.
Seems
Brent
safe.
is looking.
Seems safe.
No, they can't hit.
They suck.
It's unbelievable.
Dodgers are trash. Seriously?
14th.
14th? Bums.
Man.
They're only hitting 238.
Are they going to even make anything?
No, they're going to be
Man.
Yeah, they're going to be
break them up,
break
literally.
up the team. Seriously. Steve, you're up next. What is your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Go with Atlanta.
Atlanta, the 1-9 or 2-8 Atlanta
Whatever
Braves.
the record is Braves.
No,
they don't have a
suck.
hit this year.
They suck.
All right.
Daniel, you can get back in this with the correct answer here. What's your next guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's go with the Yankees.
Yankees.
New York Yankees. Top 10. Yes.
Yeah, torpedo bats.
Thank you, torpedo bats. Yeah.
Steve, back to you. Final guess. You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Giants.
The Giants. You had a
They've
lifeline.
had a great start to the year, but is it with their batting average? It's not. But we're tied up, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's not over.
No, Daniel could walk it off here, but he had a lifeline.
You did.
Daniel, final guess. You have a lifeline. What do you got?
Let's go with Boston.
Boston.
He
Red
doesn't want the
Sox.
lifeline.
No
It's
lifelines.
Boston on the list for the win.
No. Oh my God.
Nobody wants our help.
What an all-time fumble.
Wait. But wait, there's more. It's on the list.
Oh my God.
They're on the list.
I missed them. They're towards the bottom. I missed them.
Towards the bottom,
An
Red
all-time
Sox.
just fake out.
So wait, where were you going with your lifeline?
Chicago Cubs.
Okay,
That
you were
would've been correct.
convinced of the Cubs.
Like 100% I knew the Cubs.
Yeah, Cubs was a good one. And I'm trying to think if I would have gone elsewhere, if I had another one, if I would have gone.
Here's a team. How about the Diamondbacks?
That would also be correct.
How about I don't know. I have no idea. I wouldn't have
How
gotten it right probably.
about the Mets?
That would be wrong.
I'm an idiot.
How about the 2-9 Rockies?
Nope.
All right, who's on the list?
All right. Padres are number 1. St. Louis is 2. The Yankees are 3. The Phillies are 4. The Tigers are 5.
Okay.
Arizona's 6. The Red Sox, they're 7th. That's why I almost missed them. Then the Blue Jays, then the Rays, and then the Cubs.
So the Padres are
Atlanta's hitting 215, by the
I
way.
was going to say, the Padres are hitting 286, and that's number 1, and it's by a wide margin, right, Brent? What's the second best team hitting in batting average?
It's not that 278.
I mean, that's The Padres are hitting 286, and no one else in baseball is hitting better than 278. What's the worst batting average in baseball to this point in the season?
Well, Jim's favorite team, the Pittsburgh Pirates,
Are hitting what?
198.
The Pirates as a team are hitting 200.
There's 3 teams hitting under 200. The Twins, White Sox, and Pirates.
Change the rules.
Pirates are a absolute joke.
There are 3 teams not hitting 200.
Mariners are at 200 exactly.
The most exciting part of the Pirate season will be Paul Skeens and his GQ shoot with Livy.
Yeah.
That's the most exciting part of their season and will be their most exciting part of their season.
You heard that thing where he's like, yeah, my teammates would probably rip me for that. Well, they shouldn't because they're hitting 198. Your teammates should spend more time in the cage.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody
less time reading GQ.
Right.
Dude, there's 11 teams that are hitting under 220.
This is an issue.
Yeah.
This is an issue.
Also, the Pirates, they're not reading the GQ magazine for Paul Skeens.
What do you think they're reading it for?
Well, his girlfriend's in the magazine, so I think that's why they might be reading it.
Are they're not engaged or anything?
Nope. By the way, his personality, did you see their interview, the GQ interview they did together? Like they were asking each other questions?
No.
He has the personality of a cardboard box. It is.
Is that a good personality or a bad personality?
I am thankful that of the 2-star rookies last year, that Jackson Merrill's a Padre, just because
you wouldn't take Skeens.
I would take Skeens in a second, but
Livy done it every game.
Yes, I'd take it in a second. But I'm just saying, his personality makes me want to fall asleep.
I'm with you on that. I mean, Pirate fans, you better enjoy it because he's going to be dealt in 2026.
Be more boring. You can't.
Right.
He's a great pitcher, but God, is he just boring to listen to.
What do you think that like first date was like? Like, hey, I'm
hi. How did she fall for him? Like, what? I don't get it.
I mean, they're both at LSU, obviously.
That's
at
why
the time.
Star athlete.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of star athletes at LSU, probably.
Yeah, but still. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
he wasn't the first overall pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a power couple, by the way, in earnings.
Oh.
Because obviously, Livy Dunn's making an absolute forture in NIL and elsewhere in endorsements.
She's making more than him.
That's great. And he's bad, but he's going to make some serious money.
Soon, he will get a 6-figure deal of over $200 million.
That's what I'm saying.
So, but
I
right
don't know
now,
what she's making.
Right now, she's the breadwinner in that.
I know
that couple.
They're going to be like $1 billion household, maybe at one point. In like career earnings is possible.
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, Livy Dunn has like Viore, all of her other endorsements with like, what is it? Like some makeup brands, and then she's been at Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition. I don't know if that pays.
I don't know if that pays,
but yeah, she's got deals out the ass. I mean, it's just crazy.
All right.
I know.
Okay.
I didn't mean it like that. I just meant she has a bunch of deals, if you know what I mean. Pause.
Such a clown, dude.
I didn't mean it like that, dude. I didn't mean it like that.
Aaron doesn't listen to the show, right?
Of course not.
All right. Of course not.
Why would she want to listen to this show?
I have no idea. You said show, right?
I said show, John. I would not say the other S word.
Darnay Tripp, NBC7. I don't know if I had to hit something. Darnay Tripp is going to join us on the other side.
So who cares, right?
John Wilner.
Just kidding.
Wilner Hotline, the latest on Pac-12 media and expansion at 5:30. We are here for a whole nother hour.
Why?
Believe it or not. So we've got a whole nother hour for you. But again, Darnay Tripp, who has been standing by,
another hour,
will join us on the other side. This is John and Jim.
All right, this update brought to you by eBay. Padres, they have an off day today. They'll start a 3-game series against the Rockies tomorrow night at Petco Park. Nick Pivetta will be on the mound for the Padres. In round 1 of the Masters is in the books. Justin Rose leads the tournament after day 1 at 7 under par. Scotty Scheffler is at 4 under par. Rory McIlroy, he was 4 under heading to the 15th. He finished the day even. And San Diego State senior Justin Hastings is at +4 on the day. Swapping out your tires, there's nothing like it. With eBay, you find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices that you'll love. eBay, things people love.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
The LeBron doll is incredibly detailed, featuring the 4-time NBA champ's signature facial hair, a custom Letterman jacket, crossbody bag.
You actually don't know English.
English, do you speak it?
It's not cross. It's cross. Where are you from? What part of the country were you schooled in?
The Ken doll, or I guess LeBron doll, will be available for $75 in stores and online.
You can get it right across the street from Staples Center.
Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of John and Jim, thankfully.
Like final hour ever?
I don't know. Darnay Tripp is with us. I think Darnay sympathizes with me because, well, Darnay doesn't work with Jim like I do. He kind of does because we include him in a group chat where, right? You basically, you know what it's like to be in my shoes because you deal with this.
Just says it all.
So, like, I want to start there, Darnay. NBC7 on Friar podcast. If you're a Padres fan, you should check it out. Like, do you think you could work with Jim day in and day out? Serious question. Could you, if you were paid to work with Jim for 4 or 5 hours a day, would you be able to do it?
That's not nice.
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, so much of it depends on like how much I'm responsible for Jim and how much Jim impacts like the quality of my work and life and happiness. Like if he's just somebody down the hall that I can say what's up to and chat about the Padres and be on my way, then that's probably the perfect scenario. But if it's as intimate a partnership as you guys have, that might be a little more challenging.
What are you trying to say, Darnay? Trying to say you wouldn't want to work with me? I mean,
that's exactly what he's trying to say.
It's exactly what. Yeah, exactly. Well, our best friend, arguably, Darnay Tripp, joining us.
Who else is in the running?
Well, let me think here. It's a good one. Annie's in the running.
Annie Halver?
Yeah.
Right. There it is. There's the list.
That's you too. You're our best friends.
Oh yeah. Brent just said Alan Sliwa. No, Darnay's been with us many more times.
No, Darnay's top of the list.
Yeah.
Darnay, you're the top of the list. Congratulations.
Love it.
All right, let's get to the serious talk here. Padres 10-3, heading home here. Bunch of injuries now. Are you concerned about the Tatis injury, or do you take what Schulte is saying at face value, and then you think he's going to be back this weekend?
I mean, you'd have to be a little bit concerned, at least, right? Like, we know how stressful it was in 2021 and the starts and stops and just kind of the questions that arose after, which ultimately led to the surgery. I mean, we've made it through about 2 years without, seeing him, at least not that I remember, grabbing at his shoulder or any sort of incident, similar to what we saw repeatedly in 2021. It's not the type of thing. Now, he did play through it at points, so I shouldn't say it's not the type of thing you can play through. And he played at a very high level, but still cause for concern. So I think of all the injuries, that's the one, because we've seen it before. We know the potentially serious nature of it. I think, with the Padres, with all these injuries, I just got to see the guys on the field. When you see the guys on the field for a week, then maybe you can feel good about any of it. But when they made it sound like they got ahead of, or were trying to get ahead of Jackson Merrill, and then a day later, he's on the 10-day IL. Groins can be finicky, I would think, somewhat similar to hamstrings. And then Tatis, the injury history, the way it has impacted him, sliding, swinging the bat, how could you not have some level of concern? Obviously, what Mike Schultz said Wednesday was encouraging, but now you just want to see him out there being Fernando Tatis Jr. for a while before you can really put it to rest, which we kind of had, right? Like after 2021, he had the surgery, came back, it felt like, okay, it seems like this is behind us. It's discouraging to see it rear its ugly head a little bit, but maybe hopefully it's not nearly as severe as what he dealt with a few years ago.
I think some of it is just like in your head, because we did it yesterday on air that since 2019, all possible Padres games since his debut, he's missed 40% of them. Now, there was a year that he missed, so that's a big part of it, obviously, but 40% of Padres games since 2019, Fernando Tatis Jr. has not appeared in. So that's always kind of in the back of your mind, or at least it is with me. You tweeted about something today, and I feel like some of this is like it isn't getting enough discussion. This Padres bullpen has been elite. I think it's the number 2 bullpen ERA in the sport, at least heading into today. And it's not like they've done it with every starter going 6, 7, 8 innings, right? They haven't really hit in their bullpen these first couple of weeks. Like, how critical has that been? You could argue, I guess, the bullpen has been the biggest bright spot for the Padres 2 weeks in, right?
Certainly up there. I mean, I pre-injury, I would say Jackson Merrill, the way he started the season, up there as well. What Fernando Tatis Jr. has done, again, before he had to come out on Tuesday, limiting his strikeouts, still having the explosiveness, playing with the speed and kind of the excitability that you get with Fernando Tatis Jr., but you need a bullpen to win games. And, as AJ Cassavell mentioned in that piece that he did today, it's been a lot of one-run games. Certainly that's what they had on the road. They've had to play close games, and those guys have been phenomenal. And there's obviously concern about losing Tanner Scott, a guy who was as important for them as he was last year. And part of that was what he did against Shohei Ohtani. So we haven't run into those guys yet. So that's going to be a question that Mike Shilton and the bullpen, Ruben Niebla, are going to have to answer. But to this point, I mean, they've been sensational. We know the close games, and there's been some comebacks, that sort of thing. For them to be as lights out in late innings and have the combination of guys to just kind of eat innings. If Michael King or Dylan Cease, Kyle Hart, those guys have had some clunky starts and they need to fill some innings. Those guys have done a little bit of both, gotten them through some games, given guys necessary rest, and obviously, slamming the door once they get into the 6th, 7th inning of a close game or one-run game, that sort of thing. They've had a lot of those to this point, and a big reason for their success is how good that bullpen has been.
I feel like Xander isn't being talked about enough through the first 13 games. He had a really good road trip. You look at his numbers right now, and they're really good. But, obviously it's early. Is this something that you believe in, that Xander could, actually put together a year like where he is impacting the team and it's not just a hot start and a hot finish and a bunch of, average in the middle? Did you believe in this start from Xander?
Yeah, I think so. And, going back to 2023, it was when he got plunked and the injury issues, that sort of thing creeping up that seemed to slow him down. Last year, he just never got going. And I think that's what's encouraging about the start this year, because it really has seemed like the struggles have worn on him. And it's been difficult to kind of get out of that cycle when things aren't going well. And so I think for him to have an encouraging start, to have the confidence to not be kind of wrestling with some of the demons that I think have kind of emerged the last couple of years, I think would be really important for Xander Bogaerts. He's obviously a really crucial piece. There's a great financial investment, and you'd love to get more of a return for what they're paying than what he's provided the first couple seasons. He hasn't been, it's not silver slugger caliber necessarily, but it's been 780 OPS after a 3-hit day yesterday where he scored both the team's runs. Really good, really solid. Hopefully it's a starting point and he builds from there as the guy that should have 20 home run potential. But I think just in terms of kind of his mentality and confidence to do some good things early on, I think is important for him. And hopefully we see his productivity grow. And yes, absolutely. I mean, I think he got the contract for a reason. His track record is such that we should believe that he can have that type of season.
Yeah, he's almost due for that type of season, truthfully, in
Yeah,
his
he
third
is.
year in San Diego. Darn it, Trip, NBC 7 on Friar Podcast with us right now, John and Jim. San Diego Sports 760. I want to switch gears because you spent a lot of time covering soccer locally, whether it's the Wave or SDFC. And obviously, this San Diego FC start's been terrific. I mean, it's been a really good story, I think, nationally for Major League Soccer, and it's playing out right here in our backyard with the 14 points in 7 matches. What's this been like for you? I don't know what your expectation was. You've spent a lot of time around it, but they've exceeded everyone's expectation based on this start, right?
Yeah, and I think my expectations were, can they contend for a playoff spot? And, you saw there were a lot of people that expected them to finish, close to the bottom of the Western Conference. It seemed like they, obviously Chucky Lozano, it seemed like there was some decent top-end talent. Another friend of your show, Jake Ziven, I spoke to him about this and just feeling like, okay, the top-end talent is there, but when their depth is talent, how much is tested? How much do they have behind the Chukis and Anders Dryers and Luca De La Torres? And that was obviously tested when Marcus Ingvartsen gets hurt, when Chucky Lozano misses time, and they've had a lot of guys step up and contribute. And so I think that's been one of the most pleasant surprises. I thought certainly they had a chance to contend for a playoff spot. It seemed like that was kind of, if I'm reading between the lines, where they kind of set their sights and where they kind of set their hopes and expectations for this year. To this point, far exceeded that, and it's been thrilling to watch. And again, I think what I've been most impressed with is when Chuky's out, when they've missed some of these guys, when Anders Dryer's had a few games where he's not scoring goals, they've had guys step up and deliver, and from a number of different spots that you would not necessarily expect. And I think that's really encouraging. They've had 10 different guys score goals. And so it's been far from a one-man show. And there's an identity with this team. And similar to what we talk about with the Padres, like Mike Schilt instilled an identity with this team. And sometimes it might sound cheesy or repetitive or what have you, but it's worked. And I think it's kind of been similar with Mikey Varis and SDFC. They have a way they want to go about their business. They're diligent. They stick to that. It's delivered to this point. It's been really fun to watch and fun to see the environment and the atmosphere and the excitement, and kind of feels like a symbiotic relationship between the two. So much investment in soccer here. They want to give it back. They want to reward that and pay it back. They've done so with a quality product, which has only grown the excitement. So it's just been a really fun thing to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciate the most, as being a casual soccer fan as I am. Like, this thing could have been really boring, right? The fanfare would have been there, the supporter groups would have been there, but like we talked yesterday to Dax McCarty and the Nashville expansion team back a couple of years ago. He mentioned, like, we were so boring. Like, the whole entire thought process behind our club was, we're going to go out there and be a defensive minded club. So I appreciate the fact that this club is always on the attack. They have decided that they are going to come out and try to be as exciting as possible. And I just appreciate that the most with this club, because they are an expansion team. And for a lot of people that are going to these matches, it's their first time really getting a taste of soccer, and nobody wants to sit through a 0-0 draw, even though those things will happen in soccer. But they appreciate, and I appreciate the fact that it's like they are always on the attack.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we saw that first match against St. Louis at home. St. Louis wasn't playing a very exciting brand of soccer. Like, all right, if that's who we were watching week in, week out, it might not be all that compelling. I mean, there's teams that have scored just a handful of goals, 7 matches into the season. Like, that would be a bummer.
Yeah.
And they talk so much about kind of their right to dream style of play. For somebody who's, relatively new and covering the sport and following the sport to this level, you just don't know, like, what that's going to look like. And like you said, how exciting it's going to be. We know soccer, it's a sport with a lot of nuance, and sometimes you just have to appreciate how they're playing, the thought that's going into it, and find, sometimes you have to, in a football game or basketball game, sometimes with the Aztecs, you have to find the joy, the excitement in a defensive struggle. because, obviously the basketball program's been built on that. When it is a sport that is relatively new to a lot of people, again, like the casual audience, that would be a tougher sell. And to come out of the gates saying, we want to be exciting, we want to score goals, we want to win games, that's a pretty, especially when you follow that up with how you perform in the field, it's a quick, easy way to get fans on your side.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been fun. I think a lot of San Diegans are enjoying what they've seen so far from SDFC and, of course, the Padres off to this 10-3 start. Darnay, thank you for letting us bother you.
And anytime at all, I have no doubt you'll bother me via group text a little bit later today,
Tonight.
and I look forward to that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thanks, Darnay. Appreciate you. Darnay Tripp, NBC7 on Friar podcast. All right, we'll continue the Padres and SDFC discussion on the other side. And John Wilner Hotline, the latest on the Pac-12 and its expansion efforts, its media deal timeline, and more. That'll be at 5:30 right here on John and Jim. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. John Wilner Hotline, the latest on Pac-12 expansion and a TV deal. It's been over a half year since San Diego State and 3 other Mountain West schools notified the Mountain West, or we became aware that they were going to leave the Mountain West for the Pac-12.
Like it was
the
yesterday.
Latest? I know, it's been over a half year, believe it or not. A reminder, it is iHeartRadio week only on Wheel of Fortune. Tonight, country superstars Lady A stops by, and Wheel is giving away an unforgettable trip to Las Vegas and the iconic iHeartRadio Festival. Watch Wheel of Fortune. Check your local listings. So John Wilner coming up in 10 minutes. Jim's back page later this hour. Good to connect with Darnay, our buddy.
Always good. Should we text him again
and say thanks? Or, hey, Darnay, will you come on again tomorrow?
You want to come on every day at 2 to 4?
Now, he's good because he covers the things we cover. Like, he spends a lot of time on the Padres. He spends a lot of time on SDFC. He will cover absolutely San Diego State football and basketball as well. So he's in like our wheelhouse of like local first. You know what I mean? Some people cover like, oh, the Giants traded up to number 2 overall. That's great. You know, it's great. It's good. But like, I like the uber local stuff, which is why I like Darnay. I like Darnay other reasons, not just because he covers like the Padres.
I didn't get into Darnay what I really wanted to talk about,
which is
Ashton Hall, who you don't.
Oh yeah, the guy with the banana peel.
There is a recent video of him running. It's very
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Just if you saw the video, you'd be like, "What?"
I haven't.
Don't watch it.
I won't.
Good. This guy has become a viral sensation overnight, and he's still going. By the way,
you're saying because of the morning routine
he has
from a couple of weeks ago.
Now, before the morning routine blew up,
right?
He still had like 6 million followers on Instagram. Guess how many he has now?
He had 6 million before this, and now he's got 10.
Try 13.
That's crazy.
I
always say, like, sometimes the internet just internets. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, he did a collab with like Mr. Beast, so that got him a bunch of followers. Then
why don't we do that?
Well,
because it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, Mr. Beast is not going to look at our like 2,000 views channel on YouTube and be like,
"Oh yeah, that's a good collab.
Let me collab with those guys."
Right. We'll pay it back if we're ever huge. You hear that, Fadden?
No, we won't.
We'll collab with you.
What's the saying? Remember the little guy? We'll forget the little guy.
That's not true.
No, it is true.
Right. Maybe it is true, honestly. What was your point on Ashton Hall? That's what you wanted to talk to Darnay about?
It was a joke.
Right.
All we do is send back and forth like his Instagram reels that he's doing. And he's now parlayed this into doing, this was my morning routine back in 2018. This was my morning routine back in 2020 when I was a slob and a schmuck and I was a PT at Planet Fitness. And I'm like, that's not a bad morning routine. Wake up at like 8, eat bacon, go work out, go take a shower, go to your job, eat lunch, come home, hang out a bit, play some video games and eat dinner, and there's your day.
But why would hundreds of millions of people even care? That's for another day. Let me ask you this.
It's the internet, John.
And like I said, the internet. Let me ask you this. What would you prefer? Okay. This is a sports San Diego specific question. What would you prefer this weekend?
Yes.
SDFC wins in Denver.
What are we doing here?
Or the Padres beat the Rockies 2 out of 3? I think it's a good question.
But then I'm like having to choose against the team. I am not the Padres here.
Sports Talk Radio. We do the rap. I don't know.
But
I'm
not the Padres. I am all inclusive. I welcome everybody.
I know. I'm asking a question. Would you prefer that SDFC wins against the Colorado Rapids or the Padres win against the Colorado Rockies?
I prefer both.
Okay. But if you could only have one.
Life or death?
Yes. Your life is on the line based on these results.
Probably the Padres.
Why do you hate SDFC like that?
I knew that was coming.
I cannot believe it.
That was coming.
Did anyone hear that?
I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to say that.
That's unbelievable.
I knew he was going to say that.
What is it?
I knew he was going to say it.
I'm kidding. I'm completely
You can't ask
kidding.
that question.
You kind of can.
It's like, oh,
I was actually going to say,
who'd you rather have, your firstborn or your secondborn?
True. You cannot ask that question.
No.
You can't ask that question. Oh, I like you more than you. Nah, that's a bad idea, I think. I would just say that the thing with Major League Soccer is there's 34 matches. The thing with Major League Baseball, 162. So when just the weight of any match is it's like weighted more to soccer, right? Because they play 1/6 the games.
I can't believe you asked that question.
I know. Now everyone thinks you hate STFC.
No, everyone thinks you just hate one or the other.
No, I'm just curious. As in, what means
what
more?
What about you? What would you choose?
Oh, I would never answer that
Of
question.
course,
That's a trap.
It's a trap.
Why would I? I'm just saying.
Played me like a fiddle.
I'm just saying that you could argue STFC because they only play 34 times.
No, both. You can't ask that question, especially for like local sports teams. Like, what if a weekend you got SDFC, San Diego State football, and the Padres playing, and I asked you that question?
I would never answer it.
Okay, so you can't answer. You can't ask a question that just I'm not going to.
I agree.
So
I agree.
So why'd you ask it to bait me into saying the Padres, and then you would have said that what you said about me hating SDFC?
Correct.
On the flagship home of SDFC?
John Wilner.
Good job.
Wilner Hotline. On the other side, the latest on the Pac-12 TV deal and its expansion efforts. John Wilner coming up next. John and Jim, good point. 760. Jim's back page coming up in about 15 minutes. But if you missed it earlier, we caught up with John Wilner, who is a great guest when it comes to all things college athletics and the Pac-12, which, of course, San Diego State is joining in 2026. So John Wilner hotline earlier, we started the conversation talking about the schools that left the Mountain West for the Pac-12. That was announced over a half year ago. And what comes next in this process?
Yeah, well, not much has happened in the last 6 months. The Pac-12 has been looking for a media rights deal that would start for the 8 schools. It would start in the summer of 2026. But what they're trying to do is kind of attach it to the upcoming football season, so that Washington State and Oregon State would have their games on in the fall. I think that they're going to probably end up with something here in the next month or so. The most likely scenario is that they're going to have multiple media partners, so they're not going to be all in with a single network, and it's going to be a deal where, there's probably some over-the-air network, a little bit of cable, and then some streaming as well. We'll see which networks end up signing up. I think the CW is probably a pretty good bet. I think Turner, since it lost the NBA, may be looking to add some college sports and maybe ESPN as well. But there could be any kind of combination of 2 or 3 networks that end up with the rights to the Pac-12.
Yeah, how creative do you think they're going to get here? Because if you're saying like maybe multiple media outlets, it sounds like if they can't get that big one singular media outlet, that they're going to have to try to get as creative as possible here, right?
Well, I think that they would like to have their preference is to get multiple outlets.
Okay.
And that's what most conferences have. The Big Ten's got 3, Big 12's got 2. The ACC and SEC are both all in with ESPN, but having a variety, and the current Mountain West has got CBS and Fox. So having a variety is not a bad thing. The creativity question is very interesting because in a lot of ways, the Pac-12 is, starting over and starting from scratch with a media deal. So they could construct something where, they're playing different days of the week a few times during the season, whether it's Sunday or Monday, Friday. I think that they've got that option, and then they're going to try to break it down so that they have some linear exposure. That's the biggest thing, is you can't become irrelevant. And if you're only on streaming, even if it's giving you more money, you can become irrelevant. So I think that they're going to try for the CW and or Turner, ESPN, Fox as kind of the anchor for the football season. And then basketball, we'll see. That they could get creative there too. And we don't know how many more schools they're going to add, right? We know they need one more football playing school, but they could decide that they want to add 2 or 3 that don't play football and play basketball and focus a lot on basketball. So we'll see, but I think we'll have a good idea here in the next few weeks.
John Wilner Hotline with us right now, San Diego Sports 760, John and Jim, and kind of on cue because you wrote about this today, this idea that, well, money matters, but exposure matters. Which matters more right now? You just touched on this. You think it's exposure. Are those the conversations that are happening right now in the Pac-12 office, that, yeah, you might be able to get more, but to what end is it worth to get more money if you're not getting the coverage you're seeking?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. They are having that conversation. I mean, it's one of many strategic conversations that they've got to have. They're sending out bids for their content, and they may not get exactly what they want. Optimally, you get the most money and the most exposure on linear television, but they're probably not going to get that. They're probably going to have to choose which way to lean. And I just think, whether each school is making $8 million a year or $9.5 million a year, that's still like 30 or 40 million behind the major conferences, right? So it's on the margins. But if you're not on linear, then you're not being seen. You're not being talked about on social media. You're not being talked about on the studio shows on Fox and ESPN. They can't disappear, right? it's a hard enough battle with the rebuilt Pac-12, just based on the schools that are in there, right? They're not the blue bloods. So it only would get worse for them if they are majority streaming, at least for football. I think they have to have their football game of the week has got to be on over-the-air television. And to me, the CW would be the most likely candidate. And I think that's fine. CW is in like 100 million homes, right? People will see it. It's putting your best football game on, a streaming platform behind a paywall that I think would be disastrous.
What are some schools that are candidates to join the Pac-12 in basketball and football, in your opinion?
Well, I think Texas State, at least the way I view it, Texas State is got a pretty good shot to get in at football. There's still a lot of talk. Could they add Memphis and Tulane, South Florida? But I don't think that they're going to have enough money to lure those schools, because those schools are already making $9 or $10 million a year in media deals. So the Pac-12 would have to come at them with 12 or 13 or 14 million to make it worthwhile, given how much more they're going to spend on travel if they're in a Pac-12. So to me, the American schools are going to be tough to get. I think Texas State makes a lot of sense because you want to be in Texas. And there still could be some Mountain West schools in play, right? The complicating factor and what turns it into like 5-dimensional chess is the lawsuits against the Mountain West. One is the poaching penalty lawsuit that Pac-12 has filed. That's over $55 million in penalties that the Mountain West says it's owed. And the other is the exit fee penalty that Utah State, Boise State, and Colorado State have filed against the Mountain West for like basically $20 million a school, and they don't want to pay all that. So you put it together, and there's like $100 million almost at stake between the schools of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. And if the Mountain West doesn't collect what it thinks it's going to get, it won't have enough money. It won't be able to make the payments it promised to UNLV and Air Force last fall. And then who knows what could happen. The Mountain West could, dissolve. And in that case, the Pac-12 would have its pick of some of those schools as well.
John, is that part of the timeline then in terms of media rights and expansion to wait on these, I don't know, are there mediation efforts between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West? Does that need to be resolved before the Pac-12 resolves what's coming next for it?
I don't think so. So they are talking about mediation. They have not, to the best of my knowledge, decided on a mediator and entered into mediation. Pac-12, I think, is going to wrap up its media rights deal before the poaching penalty lawsuit is resolved. And that could take months, right? I mean, if you think back when Washington State and Oregon State sued the departing 10 Pac-12 schools in the fall of 2023, I mean, they had like 8 or 10 sessions of mediation that lasted, I want to say, 3 months. So we don't know how long if they do mediate, we don't know how long it's going to go. And the Pac-12 can't afford to wait 2 or 3 months to get a media deal done. They got to get moving. The thing is that none of the schools that they could add are going to materially change the value of the Pac-12 package. So they can kind of go to market and talk to the networks and get a number, even if they don't know what the final membership structure is going to look like.
That makes sense. John, final question from us here, and we appreciate you taking time, is even if you add a Texas State, that would be the 8th football playing member, which is the requirement, and that could work. But then you're looking at maybe 7 conference games and 5 non-conference games, at least initially. Does that make sense? Again, maybe it works in a short term, but like would Texas State, in your opinion, be paired with another Texas school for things like men's basketball travel or other sports travel?
I think that ideally that would be the case. I actually have looked at this. It's from Denver to Austin. Texas State is like between Austin and San Antonio. It's in a booming area. It's 2-hour flight from Denver to Austin.
Gotcha.
It's not ideal. I think they would prefer to add another Texas school, but I just don't know how realistic it is. The 7 conference games is kind of a problem. It's expensive to schedule non-conference games. I mean, the FCS schools, they know that there is a supply demand calculation that is in their favor, and they are charging a lot of money for some of those non-conference games. One option would be to set up a deal where you actually played one team home and home. So like one year San Diego State would play Colorado State home and home. The next year they'd play Boise home and home. That kind of gets you an eighth conference game without having to spend the money for it.
That's interesting. John, love the insight and the reporting. Again, for our listeners, you can check it out. Wilner Hotline, just great insight for our listeners here in San Diego. So thank you for doing it. We hope to have you again at some point soon, but thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff from John Wilner. On the other side, Jim's back page. We're here until 6 p.m. This is John and Jim. we're sitting here laughing because Jim sends out a tweet. It's interesting. Like Eggy Rosario and Connor Joe aren't in the AAA lineup tonight. And you're thinking, does that tie back to like the health of the Padres, right? For tomorrow. Is that why they're being kept up, or are they traveling? And then we find out that Tyler Wade is in center field. Okay. But the oddest of this, Brett Sullivan, the catcher.
Why is he playing left field tonight?
Is in left field. Like, why are we getting weird like April 10th in AAA?
Eggy Rosario played center field last night, by the way.
It proves this point with the Padres. They will act like they'll actually play any player anywhere.
Literally
they just
anywhere.
Don't care.
No.
And honestly, it's worked out.
Yeah, it's been fine. You can't do it all the time, though.
I don't think so
once in a
either.
blue moon.
I mean, Brett Sullivan, your third catcher the last couple of years, is now a left fielder in AAA.
Yeah, the one thing about Preller is his the last couple of years roster construction's been better, but over his tenure as Padres GM is not great with roster construction.
You can't just put any player anywhere. There's no way that works.
He's like, oh, let's have 75 shortstops.
Is it a YOLO theory? Like we're gonna do something because nobody else does? I don't know, man.
I have no idea.
Or is it just for the day? Because like the other day with the Padres, and they were 3 players down, they're moving guys all around. Jose Iglesias didn't left. So if you're going to be down Eggy and Connor Joe, do you have to move guys around in the short term? Why are they down Eggy Rosario and Connor Joe? Is it tied to the Padres' health?
If I'm going conspiracy theory now, if I'm putting on my Windhorse hat,
right?
Why would they do that? I think those 2 guys are called up.
Are they called up or are they emergency call up? Like here, break glass if necessary.
I would be worried for the latter of called up to replace Jake and Toddy.
Nah, we'll see. Maybe. Why are Eggy Rosario and Connor Joe out of the lineup? Because of the injuries.
Now, yeah, well, if they're out of the lineup and they're called to the bigs, you're going to need to make a roster move. You can't just have those guys on the team because Tatis and Cronenworth are still active.
Right.
So you would need to make a corresponding move to have those guys go on the active roster. And to me,
but can't you taxi squad guys in the major leagues now? Like bring them up and not bring them up and then send them back? You can. I'm pretty sure.
Then what's the point?
Well, you get them here because they're not 100% sure the status of these players. And once they know the status, if these players aren't going on the IL,
like a just in case,
hop back on the airplane. You know, just in case of emergency break open glass situation. But yeah,
that sucks for them for traveling.
I think you can taxi squad now.
You have to fly to San Diego
just in case.
And then, just kidding. Tatis and Cronenworth are fine. Go back to El Paso.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And by the way, Brett Sullivan took your job in left field. He went 3 for 3 with 3 home runs.
Yeah, here's your commercial flight.
All right, let's get to
coach.
Let's get to it.
It's time for Jim's Back Page.
I got to blame the fans and the media. Then after that, it's the lineman's fault. It's the coach's fault. The owner's fault. The turf. Referees.
Today's stories that you might have missed.
If I were to ask you, John, give me like the top casual dining chain restaurant in the U.S., what would you say?
Right, like an Applebee's, you're saying?
Yeah, that's a casual dining chain.
I would say Applebee's would be up there for me. Something like Outback, Chili's.
Yeah,
would all be on my list.
I would agree.
Yeah, Olive Garden, are they still around?
It's funny.
I like Olive Garden.
Okay. I love Olive Garden too. It's funny you mentioned because Olive Garden was the top ranked casual dining chain in the United States.
Okay.
It has just been overtaken
by
Texas Roadhouse.
Is Texas Roadhouse
like
the
Texas
one with
Roadhouse.
the peanuts that you throw on the floor?
No, that's Five Guys. Well, maybe. Roadhouse might do that too.
Okay.
Five Guys is the place that you can go and get peanuts.
Yeah. The Texas Roadhouse is like just the Americana steakhouse that's everywhere.
Texas toast.
Yet I don't think I've been to a Texas Roadhouse in my life.
Is that right?
I can't remember.
I have.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I would love to go to Texas Roadhouse. I just don't remember ever going to one.
Yeah, no, it's good. So number one in terms of what, like locations or sales or interest, reviews, like what is it? They have the most chains.
It says here that Texas Roadhouses rise to the top of the best casual dining restaurants in the U.S., contributed to a number of things: the quality, affordability, and guest satisfaction. What do you got, Brent?
They were known for their complimentary peanuts and the tradition of tossing shells on the floor, but that practice has been discontinued. So now they just get peanuts in a bag and they have to.
I used to do that like 20 years ago. Like you get the peanuts. I remember that. You could just throw them on the floor and then they would sweep them up at the end of the night.
Yeah, it says that Texas Roadhouse is known for its made-from-scratch menu, hand-cut steaks, and welcoming, energetic atmosphere. The brand has cultivated a loyal customer base across the country. So Texas Roadhouse.
I wouldn't have expected it. I'm with you on that. I would have said an Applebee's.
I would have said either Applebee's or...
Who's Applebee's biggest competition?
Chili's.
Chili's.
Yeah.
Olive Garden is a good one. Olive Garden's a good one. But
is Friday still doing their thing? Or is that
TGI Fridays?
Yeah, they're still around.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about like IHOP? I know those are just breakfast places. But
Yeah,
like
I mean,
IHOP,
they're sale. You're right.
Or Denny's.
I mean, there's tons of chains of those. Yeah.
Maybe
a little different, but the same. Yeah.
Maybe this is just like
dinner. Yeah. That's an interesting list.
Yeah. Anyway, Chick-fil-A, John, the popular fast food chain, is giving away a free small or medium Chick-fil-A waffle potato fry side from Monday to Saturday, starting on April 19th. We look forward to treating our guests to a tasty, crispy fries on the house, says the owner of Chick-fil-A. We're so grateful for the support of the San Diego community. We hope this giveaway brings a little extra flavor and excitement to the day. To redeem the reward, guests must visit a participating San Diego area Chick-fil-A restaurant and just open their Chick-fil-A app. Only one person per Chick-fil-A account will be eligible for the free side. So these are Chick-fil-A's in San Diego.
Starting April 19th.
Yes.
For a week.
For a week. Now,
Okay.
they don't, obviously, they're not open on Sundays, but for a week, there you go.
Okay.
And this isn't really a story. This is more just like, what are you doing? You know the Talking Baseball account?
I do.
For some reason, they decided to become like NBA Centel. You know what the Centel account is?
I don't think
It's a fake NBA account that's based off of the NBA Central account.
Okay.
But all they do is send out fake stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it gets picked up by national, like Stephen A. Smith's been duped plenty of times by the Centel account. And then they always call him out like, we made it, right?
Yeah.
Well, Talking Baseball today, they said MLB has officially banned notorious ball hawk. You know who this is.
Yeah.
Zach Hampel. From attending games for the rest of the season. And they had this like whole news release about him.
It's not real?
It's not real.
Why are they doing that? I thought Talking Baseball was like real.
I did too. And they even said per MLB.
So they're trying to get all cute now?
And
You have
then-
no credibility when you
And then
do that.
X added like a community note saying MLB has made no indication or statement that they have banned Zach Hampel.
So did they just get it wrong, or is that the game they're now playing now? Like Talking Baseball wants to get all cute and like lose all their credibility.
It says the statement provided is AI generated and it contains extensive spelling and grammar errors.
Bizarre. Yeah, that's weird. I wouldn't have expected that.
Anyway, very weird.
Very odd.
What do you think of that guy though, the ball hawk guy that like goes and just robs home runs, but not really robs home runs, but just like hangs out in the bleacher section?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I wouldn't dedicate my life to it, but I guess more power to him is what I would say, right? He bought a ticket.
It'd be one thing if he wasn't like knocking over little kids to get the ball.
Right.
Well,
that's my biggest like beef with him is you want to knock over other dumb adults to get the ball. That's one thing, but well, you know what I mean? Don't knock over little kids.
I've only got one foul ball like hit near me in my life. And I was in the press box years ago at Petco.
Weren't you there when I got one?
No, I was.
Yeah,
When it dented the wall. And didn't we give it to a kid?
I was there, dude. That's the ball I got. It bounced. It bounded into the booth. And like ended up in my lap.
I know that's the only ball that's ever gone close to me at a baseball game.
I gave it to a kid for $80. I'm just kidding.
But that's what you do.
Yeah.
If you're an adult,
I had someone walk up to Jones 2 weeks ago Saturday when you got me banana bread pudding and give Jones a foul ball.
That's the rule, man.
That's what you should do.
That's the unwritten rule in baseball. If you're an adult and you get a foul ball,
Yeah,
give it
be
to
a man,
kid.
give it to a kid.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's a callback to earlier. John got the ball, and he gave the kid his Venmo account.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. Pay
All
us.
right. Join us tomorrow, 2 p.m. We'll get you ready for Padres Rockies. Kevin AC on the show as well. That'll be tomorrow right here on John and Jim. We have another guest as well.
LeBron.
Tim Haggerty, voice of the AAA El Paso Chihuahuas. We'll see you tomorrow on San Diego Sports 760.
Okay, bye.
Not LeBron.
San Diego Sports Traffic.